I just pressed the let's go live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We've got some serious business to attend to. Ray K says, Rob, your hair is fine. All right, it's fine. Is it all right? Hang on a minute. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Just kidding. Let's get to it. It looks like we're live. Ready? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about the Trump trial. We've got a motion to continue underway. We've got the indictment of the Joe Biden whistleblower known as Dr. Gal Luft, and we have a new report from the House Judiciary Committee that says that Ukrainian intelligence was colluding with the FBI to censor Americans. And as we covered yesterday on the show, we know that a federal judge has said, actually we covered that this morning on our members only, a federal judge has said that that is illegal. They're not allowed to do that. So we've got three good segments. With the Trump story, we want to get into this motion to continue because remember that the government really started this whole thing. Jack Smith said that there's going to be a big litany of things that we need to attend to in order to roll through the discovery process appropriately. And so they were asking for a continuance to December 11th, but Trump had an opportunity to respond to this. And so he submitted that late yesterday, and we're going to go through it because people are starting to see some of the defense strategy come into fruition now, asking ourselves, are they going to delay? And I think that absolutely that is the strategy, something I thought was a foregone conclusion, but we're now seeing it come out in full effect. So we're then going to turn our attention to what's happening at CNN. We had this long exchange between Tapper and Caitlin Collins and a couple other people. All kind of, it's a fun conversation all talking about this Trump prosecution. So we'll go through that and see if we can make sense of what they're talking about. Then we'll turn our attention to this indictment, Dr. Gal Luft. And so we'll go through this now. I've got the full indictment here for us. It's pretty long. It's about 56 pages, I believe it is. And so you can see 58 pages. We'll go through it. We'll hit some of the highlights on it, but we'll play a little bit of a fun game on this one. We'll just sort of ask ourselves, what happens if we do a find replace, a control F and a control R, and we just replace, let's say, Gal Luft with somebody else, Hunter Biden. What would that feel like? Because he was working apparently with Hunter Biden, but they don't charge Hunter. They just charge the people who are exposing Hunter. I mean, it's a total scam. They brought this guy in, he sat down with them, gave them evidence, and then they said, you gave us bad evidence, and therefore we'll charge you with the crime. And he says, well, the evidence was to implicate Hunter. We'll go through it. So we've got that. Jake Sullivan got asked about it. There was this very honest guy here on MSNBC. It's hilarious. The news anchor was very giddy almost. We're like, oh, the Biden whistleblower, his credibility is totally shot. But this guy's like, well, hang on a minute there, and so we'll parse through this. He's saying something without saying something, and we'll dig it out. We've got reaction from Ron Johnson. He was suggesting that Gal Luft be given immunity so that he can actually testify and expose all of this. We'll see if that happens. Not holding our breath on that one. And then we've got James Comer, who is saying, this is pretty dang interesting in the timing perspective, because earlier last week, we went through the entire statement from Dr. Gal Luft. And so if you missed that video, I would very much encourage you to watch it. It's actually mandatory viewing. If you haven't watched that yet, then, certainly watch that if you're watching this on replay before you get into this segment, because it's very important what his message says, because the indictment was just unsealed. So we'll get into that. Then in our final segment, there was another pretty sizable report that came out from the House Judiciary Committee. And this one's wild. This one is saying that the Ukrainian intelligence agencies over there and the FBI were colluding to censor Americans. And we already knew that the FBI was censoring Americans. And we already know that that was illegal, given the fact that Judge Doherty ruled accordingly, saying that the First Amendment still applies to protected speech, one of which is political speech. But now we know that foreign powers are colluding with the FBI to violate our rights. And the last time this happened, there was, I think, an impeachment, and there was a big clamoring to remove the president the last time they alleged something like this happened, when a foreign power violated American civil liberties. So we'll see if there are calls for that. We've got Jake Sullivan. He doesn't have much of a comment on it, but I think that's just the standard statement they teach you at Oxford. So we've got 3 segments. We do have some heavy lifting, some nice documents to attend to and read through. And so we're looking forward to it. Now, if you were a member of watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube, you can join as a member either way. It's super easy to join. Then you would have gotten these 2 stories this morning. We talked this morning about the Fifth Circuit getting the appeal from the Biden censorship administration. The judge, Terry Doherty, from the lower courts denied the stay. So they want to continue to censor. And the judge said, nope, you cannot continue to censor. But the Biden people already immediately appealed this to the Fifth Circuit. So they're asking for an emergency order. They're like, we need to continue to censor. Otherwise, we're all going to die. And so we covered that this morning. We also talked about this wild story where apparently Health and Human Services was illegally appointing some people at the National Institutes of Health, which means that something like, I don't know, $25 billion might be trying to be clawed back by the Republicans, because they say that Fauci and others were illegally appointed to get that money. And then there's this almost cover-up attempt that Xavier Becerra and others tried to do. And so House Energy and Commerce Committee, Kathy McMorris, sent this letter. We covered it this morning. And $25 billion of that COVID money might be coming back. So I think that was a lot of fun. And if you're a member, you get those stories fresh right out of the oven. And we very much appreciate your support. We try to deliver for our members. And so thanks for joining, whether it's on Locals or on YouTube. Watchingthewatchers.locals is the place to go. We do Trump docket updates. We do Biden schedule updates, congressional committee schedules. We check in other dockets. And so come and join us no matter where you join. Get access to the private Telegram group where the chat never ends. It just goes on, my friends. Now, we've got some meat and potatoes to attend to, but before we get there, let's make sure we have our greens and lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, because we all would like to do that. But some of us are sick of those weight loss pill ads and fad diet ads and all that stuff. You know, we've all been there, we've all done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And who's got time to prepare that every day? I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, "Wow, baby, you've lost weight." Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Super simple website, fieldofgreens.com. Enter in code Robert when you check out. And obviously, get your Field of Greens and load up your cart with all sorts of goodies there and use code Robert at checkout. And let's not forget, the vegetables want to be eaten. All right. Look how happy they are. Let us not neglect the vegetables. You make their entire existence come true by consuming them. They want to be eaten. All right, so just continue to eat your vegetables. Fieldofgreens.com. All right, now, we've got a trial update. Donald Trump and his defense team have now responded to the government's request to postpone the Florida prosecution trial. It was scheduled for August, like right around the corner. And we know that this is going to be a complicated case. It's a historical prosecution. We've got classified documents. They're going to be fighting over every single document, whether it's a presidential record or a personal record, whether that was privileged in some way, shape, or form. And it's going to go on and on and on, whether it was classified or declassified, right? Every single document, every single categorization, every single defense along the line. So the prosecutors have already asked for a continuance. They wanted to postpone it to December 11th. I want to refresh our recollection on what their request was before we go over to Trump's continuance, because people are speculating that this is really part of the main strategy. Something we've talked a long time about here is that the Biden administration and the DNC, with Biden at the helm, they really don't have a campaign strategy as far as I can tell. Joe Biden is hardly communicative. They just move him around from room to room. He's not going to go out and deliver a burner speech or sell the American people on their ideals or really any accomplishments. So instead, they're just going to be the not Trump default alternative. And this is the campaign, in other words. This is the alternative. They're going to use the strong arm of the government to continue to prosecute him. And as this election heats up, one of Donald Trump's defenses or one of Donald Trump's strategies might be to postpone this until after the election so that it is not of consequence to him in the election, so that he can win the presidency and then pardon himself because he'll control the Justice Department and he can just make this whole thing go away. Sounds like a pretty good defense strategy. Now, most criminal defendants in the United States don't have that benefit of just being, well, I'm just going to wait until I'm the president. But Trump does. Now, the government, by contrast, wants to do the exact opposite. They want him convicted like now. And they know that every day that goes by is going to be another justification for Trump to say, hey, my election is right around the corner. And remember, the DOJ, they have their own rules and regulations about my election. Remember, we've seen other leaks that they will not prosecute people within a certain period of time because of my election, right? They said that Joe Biden and the reporting there could not be disclosed or leaked because it was too close to the election. So they need to get it in before that cutoff. So the sweet spot is like now, which means I think that we're going to see the January 6th prosecutions come through very soon. But Trump, by contrast, wants to postpone. The government wants to go now, go now, go now. This is what the government said. Before we read Trump's response, this was a 5-page memo. And I just want to highlight why I think this is going to be a long shot that we get this trial completed before the election. This is what the government said. It says the government's motion for continuance says we received and we reviewed your schedule, Your Honor, but we've got some additional things. We've tried to resolve this, but defense lawyers from Trump, they said that they do not oppose a continuance, an adjournment, right? They're going to delete this current trial date and then postpone it to another date. Trump's lawyers are great with that. They just want it, way after the election. And in criminal law, it's always important to have a trial date on the calendar. It's kind of like a bookend. We almost never have a case without a trial date if you're at a felony level. It's always anchored in there because you've got speedy trial rules and regulations, and it's a critical thing. You've got to schedule stuff around it. So we're always picking it up and moving it around, but you always want something in there. It's not customary to just not have a trial date. So we're always going to be asking ourselves where to move it. So they're saying we're requesting a status hearing to address this. We anticipate that Trump's lawyers are going to file an opposition. All right. So we know what the procedural history is. They tell us that a lot of this stuff is going to take time. Clearances are going to enable counsel to review the classified discovery and the associated legal process that is brought forward under the Classified Procedures Act will inject additional time. So the government is saying, look, even we recognize that we're going to kind of need an extension on this thing. The government filed a motion for a pretrial conference, which this is what we talked about in a previous show, and that was ultimately granted. Walt Nauta got the continuance, and they'll be meeting on July 18th if the date serves. Following the order, the disclosures started, and so this is what Jack Smith was asking for, right? Before Trump responds, they said, well, we'll just post this to December 11th. That's when we'll start jury selection. We'll have a calendar call the week before on the 5th. We'll have all pretrial motions deadlines by the end of July, which is right around the corner. And that any delay, all right, any delay is excluded from the speedy trial calculations. And speedy trial, the analogy that we often use was like the chessboard. You've sort of seen, whether you play chess or not, you've seen people with the clocks. If your side is going, the clock is ticking against you. If the other side is going, the clock is ticking against them. And so both sides get a certain amount of time. And if the government asks for a continuance that is not justified, Well, that time for that 30 days or 6 months or whatever they're asking for, that counts against their clock, not the defense. If they both agree to it, then we'll say, okay, well, the defense wants that too. It's going to serve the defense, so we'll waive that time and we'll say, sure, we won't include that bucket, that calculation will not include the time that we are requesting. But if the government is requesting it and the defense objects to that and the judge sides with the government, then the defense is going to make the argument that that time should be excluded from them. They don't just get unlimited time. So that's what Jack Smith said. This was filed by David Harbach, Assistant Special Counsel. And I wanted to also share, I think, well, we'll just continue on. Donald Trump and his team now respond to the government's request for a continuance. And this will shed light on their strategy about timing. This filing is 12 pages out of Southern District of Florida. Trump's lawyers now responding to the government's motion for a continuance. They say, the defendants here, Donald Trump and Walt, in the above case, request that this court deny the government's proposed order, the one that we just read through, and postpone initial consideration of any trial date until after substantive motions have been presented and adjudicated. So, sort of sounds like they're asking for an indefinite trial date. I don't think that's going to happen. But what they're doing is laying the foundation for a continuance again. Okay, they don't want to box themselves in at this point with a trial date. The government came out and said, okay, December 11th, that's great for us. Trump is not going to come back out and say, well, all right, how about July 14th? Or how about December 2024 after the elections? They're not going to do that, I expect, and I haven't read through this motion yet. I could eat my words here in a minute. But I think it's going to be indefinite because that will not box them in. They're going to ask the judge to set it in, and then when the judge sets it, they're going to come up with a bunch of additional reasons as to why that date doesn't work for them and why another continuance is justified. Versus if they agreed with it, if they propose the date, then they have to abide by that date. So I think they're going to ask the judge to set a date, but it's going to be, or not set a date, just hold it indefinitely and say, we don't need a trial date right now. Just give us a motions deadline, and that motions deadline will anchor in the calendar, and then we'll get to the trial date later. They say, this extraordinary case presents a serious challenge to both the fact and perception of our American democracy. You're kidding, not kidding me. The court now presides over a prosecution advanced by the administration of a sitting president against his chief political rival, himself a leading candidate for the presidency of the United States. Therefore, Your Honor, a measured consideration and timeline that allows for a careful and complete review of the procedures that even led to this indictment and the unprecedented legal issues presented herein best serves the interest of Trump and of the public. And therefore, pursuant to the law, and based on the extraordinary nature of this prosecution, there is most assuredly no reason at all for an expedited trial. And the ends of justice are, in fact, best served by a continuance. Trump's team continues. They say, additionally, the legal questions here are significant, and they present issues of first impression. The intersection between the Presidential Records Act and the various criminal statutes at issue has never been addressed by any court. And this is a point we've made here many times. Okay, all of the pontificators that you hear on the news channels all saying, I've never seen that, was clearly a presidential record, clearly all of those people. This has never happened before. So they're all sort of making it up and all just shooting from the hip, right? Including here, at least, but we're at least honest about it. They just put their credentials up there, I'm an MSNBC contributor, former DOJ employee, took the trash out. They bring him on, and well, Trump's done this time. He's definitely going down. The walls are closing in there, Mika. And you're just like, what are you guys doing? So again and again and again. So yes, never been addressed by the court. And I hope they take this even one layer further and go down to constitutional opinion clause, Article 2 arguments in addition to this, because those arguments have also not been addressed. They say that in Trump's view, this will result in a dismissal of the indictment, as it should. The authority of the special counsel to maintain this action presents a potentially dispositive issue of first impression in this court. Additional significant matters include the classification status of the documents and their purported impact on national security interests. A lot of analysis, a lot of experts going to have to be brought in to take a look. And the propriety of utilizing any secret evidence in a case of this nature, and the potential inability to select an impartial jury during a national presidential election. There we go. Man, the election is going to complicate all this big time. They say, moreover, the extensive and voluminous discovery, coupled with the challenges presented by what they say are the purportedly classified material, which I love that. Purportedly classified material. The only word that it would have been a little bit more snarky would have been allegedly, which would have been turning it up to like a level 9 a little bit. They dialed it back down, by the purportedly classified material that you haven't even produced yet. It's going to require significant time for review and assimilation. All these questions further warrant a continuance pursuant to the law. And so the government, Jack Smith, and his view that these unprecedented issues should be adjudicated on an expedited basis is simply untenable, and it ignores the magnitude of this case. And I would ask them, do they disagree with that? Do they just think, well, actually they do disagree with that. They do think this is kind of a run-of-the-mill. That's why they keep saying that stupid phrase, no one's above the law, even though Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are clearly above the law, as is Hillary Clinton and many other individuals at the FBI. But they keep saying it. No one's above the law. But that is their justification for just moving quickly. This case is one of the most historical cases of all time in the United States. It's the prosecution of a former president. It really is of a historic nature. And he's running for office again. So it is a massive magnitude. And I think people who deny it, I got to presume they're being intentionally thick or maliciously dishonest. So the court, Trump's defense says, should therefore, before establishing any trial date, just leave that out, allow time for the development of further clarity as to the full nature and scope of the motions, a better understanding of realistic discovery and a pretrial timeline, and completion of the security clearance process, such that Trump can be fully informed as to the involved evidence and thus be able to present more informed arguments, are necessary. They say Trump also expects that various key legal issues will be fully dispositive, all right, meaning they're not expecting this case to go to a trial. They're saying this is going to resolve before we even get to a trial. That's why we don't need a trial. We'll file a motion to dismiss, and it's going to go away. We'll file a motion to preclude. We'll get that audio recording thrown out. Or we'll say the search warrant was bad, and therefore all of the evidence obtained as a result of an illegal search warrant must be dismissed. Okay, there's no evidence, there's no documents, there is no case. So they're saying we'll file something, and then that's going to negate the need for any trial. We're not even going to trial. So given the broad discretion this court has when evaluating speedy trial exclusions, like does the time count or not count? So here, right, Trump, if he's making this argument, he should be waiving time. He should be saying, yeah, no problem. Like, we're not invoking our speedy trial right, so we're going to postpone it and we'll waive a bunch of time. So the court should adopt and implement an approach that postpones the establishment of any trial date. They just don't want it at all. Here's what we say in support of that. Your Honor, says that Trump and Walt were indicted on June 8th on a series of charges centering on the defendant's handling of documents with purported classified markings. On June 13th, they were presented before the judge, John Goodman. Same day, Trump was arraigned, entered a plea of not guilty at the time. Walt later got arraigned. After June 13th, the government initiated the security clearance process for both lawyers to both defendants, Trump and Walt. Defense counsel has been working through the arduous process to obtain the necessary security clearance, and we updated you in the court docket on that one. But even after the applications are completed, there's going to be a delay while we get approved. You know how the government works, Judge. So the government's investigation into the matters here has been ongoing for over a year, right? They investigated this case for over a year. So why do they want to bring this trial in like 6 months? Shouldn't we get as much time to prepare our defense? They say during that time, the government collected many hundreds of thousands of documents, dozens of witnesses interviewed. Many witnesses were presented before 2 grand juries. And so Trump is going to require time to fully study that entire process. And it took them a year. It's going to take us at least a year to evaluate not only what the government will produce voluntarily, but also whatever Brady material and everything else must and should be produced. So yeah, it's going to take, man, I can imagine, a lot of work to do. So this thing better go to probably December 2024 at the earliest. They say the government anticipates producing discovery in stages due to the sheer volume of documents that they collected and because of the procedural mechanisms necessary to produce against unlawful production of the classified info. Trump, remember, can't even take the police report home with him to review, right? You get charged with a DUI, you meet with your lawyer, he'll give you a copy of your police report. He'll say, hey, take this home, read it through, give me your thoughts on it. Trump can't do that. Trump can't even look at the police report, write notes about the police report, and take those notes home with him. Judge said, sorry, those got to stay with your lawyer too. We don't trust you. You're just the former president. You're basically scum to us. So the government produced its first production of, quote, unclassified discovery in June. It was substantial. Look at this. Woo! Woo! This is what I'm saying. How can they possibly get through all of this in August or December? The government produced 428,000 records in excess of 833,000 pages of documents, just shy of 1 million pages of documents, consisting of 122,000 emails with attachments, 300,000 documents gathered from over 90 separate custodians. And we've got to interview all of those people and investigate them and verify that what they gave to you is true and honest and accurate, and they're not conflicted off. And we got to read every one of those emails, including the attachments, by the way, and all of the documents slowly because we're looking for a defense. So, man, this is going to take even more time. Yeah. And the initial production also included 57 terabytes of raw CCTV footage. So far, there is 9 months of CCTV footage, but the final number is not yet certain. So they're going to need just another 9 months just for the footage, man. You can see I'm being a little dramatic here, but the argument is this is going to take time. Oh, another box? Well, gosh, going to take another couple months here. Sorry. In addition, there will be additional productions of discovery provided by the government, including some involving devices and search warrants. Trump's team says the government has not produced all interview-related material and memorialization of those. So that is a boatload of stuff. I mean, just all these recorded interviews of thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours of interviews. The government has not informed the defendants when it anticipates producing those things, what it involves, or even approximate when it will be in a position to fully comply. So in other words, this is great. I mean, this is a great motion, honestly. This is well done. And they're saying, Your Honor, you can't possibly set a trial date right now. Why? Because their discovery is still ongoing. I mean, they don't even have an end date in mind. So if you set a trial date for July 2024, let's say 1 year from now, which maybe that is, kind of a keyed off point, like, okay, 1 year. And then we've got August, September, October, November, the election. Maybe it's 4 months out from the election, right? Just theorizing here. If, Your Honor, you schedule it in July next year, we don't even know that they're going to be done with discovery yet. So how about this? Let's just leave the trial date off and you just continue to establish some settlement conferences or some additional CIPA pretrial conferences to make sure that the discovery processes are on track. The government's efforts are ongoing, and the defendant, Trump, has no insight as to when any of this is going to be complete, nor do any of the parties know when the discovery is going to be made available to Trump and Walt. There's an extraordinary volume of stuff here. But once we have had an opportunity to review everything, we're going to have our own requests, Judge. They're going to give us a police report. The police report's going to mention something, and we're going to say, oh, well, we're going to need that. You didn't give us that. You said there was a camera right there. We looked through our discovery. We have all of the other cameras, but not that camera. So we're going to go back and we're going to file a supplemental request. You said in this interview you talked to this guy. Well, who is he? All right, well, we need more of it, so go tell us who that guy is. So they'll respond and they'll say, Judge, we need supplemental discovery, including all Brady material. And that's going to take them more time, and so we're going to have a round and around we go. So the defense says, but it's not possible with reasonable diligence for Trump to begin to identify what we're going to ask for in our supplementals without first evaluating what we've got. We can only do that after we know what they've given us. So unlike most cases, all discovery here are sensitive and high profile, unlike other cases. And Trump is unable to utilize other third-party providers to come in and help. You can't get a whole bunch of, like college interns or something. All right, boys and girls, we've got boxes we got 35 boxes here. Trump's entire storage facilities here. Go through the boxes. No, right? It's all got to be highly systematized. Thus, an adequate and diligent review of the existing production is going to take considerable time and effort. And given the volume of information that the government has produced and the time required to electronically process it, counsel for Trump only accessed the initial discovery, for example, email and documents, but not the CCTV footage, which is still being processed. I mean, they gave it to us, but we can't actually watch it yet. We just watched it for the first time in June 28th. And so until at least some initial review is completed, we can't really give you a meaningful position as to the schedule, right? It's too early for us, Your Honor. If we just gave you a date, if we just said, well, July 2024 or December 2024, it would be just shooting from the hip. So there's too much discovery. We are not in a reasonable position to give you a date, but we know that as a defense team, we must be provided with reasonable time to do the job for our client. We need effective preparation to prepare our pretrial motions and to prepare for trial. Trump's defense. They say, in addition, the government will at some point produce what they say is purportedly classified material. And the government acknowledges the discovery burdens on information subject to CIPA, which is the Classified Information Procedures Act. And it is very detailed. To that end, the government, in its letter to the defense counsel, said that classified material is going to be handled separately, which includes witness statements and other things. And so they note for the court, these are demanding and critical, right? Especially in cases of first impression before any court in the United States. CIPA in general is just a big pain in the butt, but this one is the first one ever like this involving the president. CIPA establishes processes for determining before trial what is relevant, what is admissible, what kind of classified information that can be disclosed. Other courts, including in this district, have recognized that it's reasonable to delay trial where discovery is complex and extensive, especially where it includes classified documents. Trump's team and their meaningful review and consideration of these classified documents cannot begin until we even get our security clearances. And then only after review and consideration of that material can we even engage in an informed dialogue with the court about these issues. So they say, in general, Trump and Walt believe that there should be no, quote, secret evidence, nor any facts concealed from the public view relative to the prosecution of a leading presidential candidate by his political opponent. And I think this is an absolute bold statement, and I think it's true. If Trump wants all of this exposed, part of it, right, they're going to say is classified, so they can't expose the national security stuff. But a lot of these motions and filings, all of it is being done under seal. They don't want us to see what they're doing. But Trump And Walt, they say, show it all. What are you going to see? A love letter between Trump and Kim Jong-un, whatever? Let us see it. How can you tell us that these are classified national security documents that are the worst thing ever, and then prosecute a political opponent in this country and just rely us that and just we're supposed to trust you on that? That's just, don't trust us. You can't see it. We'd like to see it to verify that you say that it is what it is. No, you don't understand. It's a national security problem. Okay. Okay, I guess we'll just sit here and do nothing, I guess. No, that's not how this works. This is the justice system, and discovery is a part of the process. Our democracy demands no less than full transparency, but it is nonetheless premature to even engage in any of this. And the court should therefore postpone its consideration until we can fully be informed. They say, significant effort is going to be required to sort through these documents once we get them from the government. Now, based on the government's schedule, trial would begin in December. But from a practical matter, even the SEPA logistics alone make clear that this schedule is unrealistic. And by way of further example, they give us some. They say, Your Honor, it's also very important to understand that the government's assertion about the nature of this case is wrong. This case presents novel, complex, and unique legal issues, most of which are a matter of first impression in this entire country. This court will need to evaluate the intersection between the Presidential Records Act and various criminal statutes forming the basis of the indictment, and constitutional law issues about the opinion clause, hopefully. These will be questions of first impression for any court in the United States, and their resolution will impact the necessity, scope, and timing of any trial. Moreover, as also noted above, the defendants anticipate pursuing constitutional, yes, and statutory challenges relative to the authority of the special counsel to maintain this action. Yeah. All right. And the defendants may also challenge the purported classification status of certain documents. However, any such challenge cannot possibly be evaluated and presented prior to review of the actual materials at issue. We can't even give you an idea of trial, Judge, until we get the material. Again, contrary to the government's assertions, this case falls squarely within the complex case statute, and there is ample time to be provided for debate, presentation, and adjudication of significant issues prior to a trial. Now, while the government appears, for some reason, to favor an expedited and therefore cursory approach to this case, it cannot point to any exigency or urgency requiring a rapid adjudication. Unless they want to come out and put in their filing that they just want to imprison Trump before the election. They would really like to be able to say during the election that Trump is a convicted criminal. Like, they would love that. Are they going to be able to get that done? Are they going to have that talking point? You know, he's been convicted. Remember how much they love that no court of law statement, how much we heard after 2020? No court of law in America, all the time. CNN was like a repeat. So they would do the same thing. A convicted felon, Donald Trump, convicted felon, Donald Trump. That's their urgency. Well, that's not a real good legal urgency. That's a political urgency. There is no ongoing threat to national security interests. Trump doesn't have national security documents. There's not any concern about any criminal activity. It's all done. But by contrast, Trump submits that the court's paramount concern here must be that Trump receives a fair trial, which gives the defense and requires that they have time to prepare. Requiring Trump to adhere to the current schedule and the government schedule would be prejudicial to Trump. The government's request to begin trial with a case of this magnitude within 6 months of the indictment is unreasonable, telling, and it would result in a miscarriage of justice. Proceeding to trial would deny Trump reasonable time necessary for effective presentation and would result in a miscarriage of justice. Therefore, Your Honor, this is what the law says. You can see that's why it's quoting it here. The ends of justice are served by granting a continuance, and the ends of justice that are served by the granting, they outweigh the interest of the public and the defense in a speedy trial. That's kind of the test. It's a balancing test. the ends of justice outweigh the best interests of the public and the defense in a speedy trial. Well, I don't know that the public really wants a speedy trial or that Trump wants a speedy trial. And the ends of justice seem to be in alignment. So they're saying, Your Honor, you have legal authority to grant this decision. Don't give us a trial date, just postpone it. They say President Trump also, by the way, is running for president, and he's currently the likely Republican Party nominee, in case anybody forgot. Joe Biden's prosecuting the #1 Republican at the time. This undertaking requires a tremendous amount of time and energy, and that effort is going to continue all the way up to the election on November 5th. Mr. Nada's job requires him to accompany Trump during most campaigns around the country, and this schedule makes trial preparation with both of them very challenging. The preparation requires significant planning and time, and so the current schedule is untenable. They say, furthermore, careful consideration will need to be given to the ability to seat an impartial jury under the circumstances, proceeding to trial during the pendency of a presidential election cycle wherein opposing candidates are effectively, in parentheses, if not literally, directly adverse to one another in this action will create extraordinary challenges in jury selection and limit the defendant's, Trump's, ability to secure a fair and impartial adjudication. These considerations are relevant to any continuance. They say even the Justice Department policy cautions against taking prosecutorial action for the purpose of affecting an election, yeah, unless it's Trump, or helping a candidate or party. That's laughable. That's a DOJ policy. Oh my gosh. What a joke. The caution against taking prosecutorial action for the purpose of affecting an election or helping a candidate or party. They didn't get the memo with Trump or Hunter, apparently. So here they say there is simply no question any trial of this action during a pending presidential election will impact the outcome and, importantly, Trump's ability to a fair trial. And finally, in this excellent motion, and it's very thorough, it's hitting this from every different angle, they say previously scheduled trials in other matters for both Trump and defense counsel make it nearly impossible to prepare for this trial. Absolutely love this. So when you have a conflict, it's good practice in criminal law to notify them of your conflicts. So you can submit a motion and say, Your Honor, I'm going to be in trial on that date. And the judge might buy it and say, okay, well, I take your word for it. You're a lawyer and you're not supposed to lie to the court. But other judges sometimes will check on that. And they'll say, oh, let me call that court and make sure you're scheduled for a trial. Or their bailiffs will call and verify to make sure that you actually have something scheduled, And so what they've done now is they've listed all of their conflicts, which looks like for the next year, which is just great because he's just stacking them all in here. So he's just putting them, no, I'm super busy. Between now and December. So I don't know, whenever you want to schedule it, can't do it. So for example, Trump and Blanche are preparing for a criminal trial in New York Supreme Court, the other case that we're following. Keese and Trump are preparing for trial in Supreme Court in October. Woodward has 3 trials. Navarro, he's representing, that's going on in D.C., September 23. Schulman and Samsel also going to trial October 2 and October 23. And I believe Samsel, that might be the January 6th case. So we've got Navarro, who's Peter Navarro, and then Samsel. So he's like, I'm busy, man. I'm representing other people that the U.S. DOJ is prosecuting illegally. You guys are really making my life hard. And so because I'm in all these trials defending all of the victims of your prosecutions, we will let the court know. The pendency of these other proceedings and their collective impact on the ability of the defense to prepare justifies granting a continuance. And so for the reasons set forth, a continuance is warranted. Why? This case is unusual. It's complex. This case involves novel questions of law and fact. Trial on the 11th would deny Trump and Walt the ability to effectively prepare, and it would result in a miscarriage of justice. An accelerated trial like Jack Smith wants would be contrary to the interest of our nation in maintaining the legitimacy of and the confidence in, what's left of it, of our justice system. So the ends of justice served by granting the continuance outweigh the interest and the public in a speedy trial. And so respectfully, Your Honor, they say a continuance is necessary and appropriate, serves the best interest of justice in this unprecedented and extraordinary action, signed by Christopher Keese and Todd Blanche and Stanley Woodward and Sasha Dayton, all lawyers for Trump and Walt. And this was an excellent motion. I mean, this really covered all the bases. And I think when we started this out, I was a little bit skeptical about not having an end date of a trial date, right? Just saying, just don't give us a trial date. I still don't think a judge is going to do that. I think we still will see a trial date. But I think it will after having read this, I think the judge will probably build in some wiggle room on the trial date. Okay, she'll say that these issues are substantive and serious, and so we'll set a trial date. It might be before the election, but we'll reconsider it at a later time and build in some wiggle room for all the parties involved in this. This motion was very good, very persuasive, and I think absolutely right. I mean, it is a case of first impression. This has never happened before. We have all sorts of complex national security issues, they tell us, that are critically important. So we have very, very sensitive procedures we have to follow. And they spent years or a year investigating it. The amount of discovery is so voluminous that Trump's team deserves every bit as much time as they got, and more, in fact, to defend himself and investigate what they investigated. And it's going to take some time. The judge, I think, is going to agree with that. So an accelerated trial, I think, is still a very foregone conclusion. And we've got CNN reacting to a bunch of this. We've got Jake Tapper hosting a roundtable with a bunch of other people over there talking Trump prosecution. Let's see what they're talking about and see if we can make sense of their language.
Today is the deadline for former President Donald Trump and his aide Walt Nauta to suggest a trial date in that classified documents prosecution. The Justice Department has asked for the trial to begin in mid-December. Let's turn to some of the most informed voices on everything in Trump legal world. We have with us Caitlin Collins, CNN anchor of The Source, which premieres tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN. Former federal prosecutor Ellie Honig, and of course the New York Times
prosecutor
Maggie Haberman. So Caitlin, I mean, I don't even know who to start with because it's just
prosecutor Haberman, who has a lot of access to Trump, and then Caitlin.
It's like a bounty of brilliant people, but I'll start with you. The deadline comes as we're hearing special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election results could be coming to a close. What are you hearing about that timeline?
Yeah.
That's the second prosecution. Trump's being prosecuted in Florida. This next case that they file is going to have all of the same issues as the Trump prosecution. We're going to have the same trial deadline stuff, you know, whether it happens before the election or after the election, but we're going to see a vastly different jurisdiction. That one's likely going to be out of D.C. And so the D.C. judges may not be as favorable as Judge Cannon is down in Florida.
It's not totally clear to anyone, I think,
Yeah,
especially the attorneys of the people who may very well get indicted in this investigation, when this is actually going to happen. But people are bracing for it. It's something that they're kind of every day trying to read the tea leaves to see what's going to happen. I think the reason they think it's going to happen in the near future, however you define that, is because there's been a lot of activity within his office. He has been bringing people in. The people who appear
Jack Smith has been bringing people in.
And they've been with very aggressive deadlines. They're not allowing people to delay and come in later or postpone. It's a very quick turnaround of when they want to hear from people. And so I think it's raising questions of what this is going to look like. And of course, what he's asking the people who are coming in about, which are key moments here with the fake electors, that crazy Oval Office meeting. Those are all the things that they believe it could be the end of the investigation.
So you and I go way back when it comes to that December 18th Oval Office investigation, because you and I talked, because right after you found out about it, you and I spoke on the phone, and you were really worried because there are these powerful people talking about unconstitutional things, martial law, seizing the voting machine. So we know that Special Counsel Jack Smith
Talking
is
about
now
it.
looking
Whoa.
into the meeting. How might this play into the investigation?
In a couple of ways, Jake. I mean, I think one way is that they're looking at Trump's mindset, for one, the fact that that
Okay.
meeting took place a couple of hours before. And, the meeting ended without him signing any of these executive orders that were
For
not
special
drafted.
counsel
Right, for
Sidney
Powell to become a
Yeah.
special counsel or to seize voting machines and
He said, heaven help us. Yeah, nothing was signed. Nothing ever got signed.
to use the government apparatus to do so. None of these orders were drafted by his White House.
He didn't write them either or sign them.
It ended without him taking action on that, but it was a couple of hours before he first tweeted, come to this rally, people,
January
on
6th.
January 6th. We'll be wild.
We'll be wild.
So one is mindset. I think one is how he wanted to use the government and was thinking about using the government.
Okay, so just so we're clear, it's a thought crime now. All right. So Trump has a meeting right before he posts on January 6th. Come to the January 6th event. It's going to be wild. At the meeting, apparently the Oval Office meeting was all of these other insurrectionists. They're like, Trump, just give Sidney Powell special counsel status. She'll go seize all the voting machines. We'll take over this country. We'll get the helicopter. You'll take Clavicle Girl. We'll go seize the Capitol on January 6th. All of that stuff. Trump tweets about it or doesn't do any, right? So they have proposals drafted by other people. He comes in here, get out of here. It's all done. Post something on Twitter, and they're going to make the connection that meeting with these, with these other proposals that never went anywhere, that was the first stepping stone. That was the first domino. That put the little seed in Trump's brain. And so he said, oh, yeah, we're going to plot to take over the country, baby. January 6th is going to be our day. And that's why he posted the tweet. So it's just the thought, right? It's that meeting translated into the tweet, which is the intentionality that you need for the criminal charge, which whatever that is going to be, probably seditious conspiracy, amongst other things. and that's going to be their evidence. It's hilarious. I mean, if it wasn't insane.
But we don't know exactly what might come of it. We do know from a number of people who have been interviewed, to Caitlin's point, a bunch of folks have been in. There has been a focus on the lawyers. There's been a focus on Sidney Powell in particular, who was in that meeting. And because there are so many tentacles of this January 6th investigation, this is not the documents case, which was a discrete fact set. This is very different, and it could play out in a number of ways.
And Emily, let's talk about that, because if Special Counsel Jack Smith does indict Donald Trump on this in the January 6th investigation, how on earth do courts manage 3 different indictments? You have in the hush money case in New York, you have in the classified documents case, you also have the January 6th, and then also potentially
They have a chart. It's like, when I was a kid, I think like our 3rd grade teacher used to have something like this. Like week 1, if you do your homework, you put a sticker on. If week 2, you do your homework, you put another sticker on. It's like, wow, you did 5 weeks of homework, and you put your sticker on there. Like, wow, yay. And so here, they've got, 4 different things here. And so they've got indicted, dun, 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 DOJ indicted. Now January 6th indicted. Georgia election interference indicted. And I think there might be another one. I mean, there might be superseding indictments. We might see another indictment out of like Bedminster, New Jersey or something like that. I mean, when we talk about them moving the boards around, the chess pieces around on the political board, this is it. I mean, this is literally what it looks like.
Georgia election meddling. I mean, how does a court system even begin to maneuver this?
We use this phrase unprecedented quite a bit. I've never heard or seen anybody who's been under 3 different indictments, if we get one more, never mind 4, from 4 different jurisdictions at the same time. This will be...
Yeah, that's exactly why they're doing it. So this talking point that comes out can continue to be used. Never seen it before. Historical. Never seen anybody with 4 different indictments, all right, in different jurisdictions. It's a giant excuse to hyperventilate and turn this into hyperbolic language that they always do. Every time there's a Trump update, we get this type of talk.
A mess.
Oh, right, because classified documents is in Florida, and January 6th would theoretically be in D.C.
Right, and then we would have we have the state charge here
Georgia,
in Manhattan. And what I think is going to happen, some of this could play to Donald Trump's advantage, because his best defense here, his best strategy is delay. We will not try 3 or 4 cases between now and the election. I think
Absolutely
it's not even 100% certain that we will try one of them.
I agree.
And ultimately, you would think, can't these prosecutors get together and prioritize? Because I think we can all agree, anyone can agree, if you take the allegations as true, January 6th is the most important.
Right.
The documents are second, and Alvin Bragg's case is far, far behind, yet he's
Not
the only
even
one
relevant.
who has a concrete trial date. He's really taking up the prime trial real estate now in March and April. They can coordinate, but there's no indication they have done that
On
yet.
the classified documents
I
case,
doubt that
today
one
the
goes
special
too.
counsel Jack Smith accused Trump aide Walt Nauta of trying to delay, specifically saying his lawyer wasn't prepared for this hearing scheduled for Friday because his lawyer is going to be in D.C. What do you make of this?
Delay is a strategy. Delay is the strategy here.
It's a good
Every
strategy.
step of the way, Donald Trump and Walt Nauta, two defendants, are going to drag their feet and delay and kick and scream. It's going to be like,
Is that normal though?
yes.
Yes.
We used to say it's like trying to put a toddler to bed, right? Delay, 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 drag it out. But it's a strategy here. And this is just a proceeding to discuss how the proceeding is going to go. And yet even so, Walt Nauta is saying, well, one of my lawyers is out of town. Let's push it off. DOJ's right to push back, and I think the judge is going to reject the effort to postpone here.
And
All right, the judge didn't. The judge postponed it to next week on Tuesday.
Caitlin, the deadline the Trump legal team is facing today to tell the court their preferred timeline for this trial date. What do you think Trump's strategy would be when it comes to selecting the date? Because he can't obviously just delay it forever. That's not an option.
He would like for it to be after the 2024 election and in between that period between then and inauguration. I mean, they in their minds think this is not going to happen before the 2024 election. Now, whether or not Judge Cannon goes along with that, that is the wild card here to see what that looks like. Obviously, Jack Smith has proposed this date of a December trial date. They don't think it's going to happen then, but they will try to push it. But I mean, we just found out the Iowa caucuses are going to be on January 15th.
Right.
Oh, see that? So Iowa caucuses are now coming up. So the election is going to start like soon. And then even if the judge postpones this thing, let's say she bumps it out 6 months from now. All right, that's in January. So when we go from even what Jack Smith wants from December, even if she bumps it 1 month, Iowa is voting in January? Good Lord, are you kidding? Yeah, we're going to be in election season. So how are they going to go to trial?
All of those, prime trial real estate was a great phrase, but it's all of those competing factors, but they are going to try to push it as far as they can.
So Maggie, obviously Trump's out there saying that every time he gets indicted, his poll numbers go up, and there is some validity to that. But in December,
he didn't like that admission. Yeah, there is some validity to that one.
If there is this classified documents case begins there, and let's just remember, this is a case that he's been bashed by his former defense secretary, his former attorney general, his former chief of staff, John Kelly, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Do you think that taking place 1 month before the Iowa caucuses could actually maybe hurt him?
That's the big X factor to me, Jake. We have not seen a dynamic where he is having to face evidence being presented every day, witnesses testifying every day.
Present
It
them.
will also depend on how much it's breaking through and how much voters care and what else is happening in the world.
First of all, present them, okay? We'd all love to hear it. We'd love for you to unseal everything. Unseal it all if the case is so strong. First of all, we'd love to have the trials publicized. Can we have a special exception for federal courts so you can broadcast this whole thing to America? No, they're obviously not going to do that. And is the public going to care about any of it? Do you remember the January 6th Select Committee hearings? No, the public doesn't care, at least about their narrative of it. They were some of the most boring, bland things we ever saw. They had like some good viewing, maybe episode 1 or 2, but by episode 3, the season just went totally flat. We heard from that liar clavicle girl who said Trump clavicled her to death or something, or the Secret Service agent, and it was all just this big, bizarre show. There was like a big patty cake game where they all came in, gave their book reports, and cried in front of the cameras. No adversarial proceedings, no actual Republicans on there asking any interesting questions, no real new evidence of any kind. So if they do that again, this time it will actually be interesting because there will actually be a defense. Because Trump's defense team with Christopher Kesey and the other lawyers who just put together that very nice motion, they'll be able to present their narrative and their argument. And they don't want anybody to see that side.
But I do think it's an unknown. It's certainly something the other candidates who are competing against him in the Republican primary and in the Iowa caucuses are hoping will happen. They are hoping that this trial takes place before the caucuses. That is in some ways their best bet, because otherwise, I guess you have to explain to me what's going to stop him. We don't know what's going to happen. Predictions are not of much value, as we know. But so far, it's 2 indictments, and it has done nothing to shake his voters. So we will see if an actual trial is the thing that does that.
No,
if this all does get pushed until after the 2024 election, the more serious cases, not Alvin Bragg, and Donald Trump wins, can he just dismiss the special counsel? I mean, like what happens legally?
If this gets pushed beyond the election and he wins, they're all dead on the vine. All four of them, let's say hypothetically. First of all, the federal cases, Donald Trump can either order his DOJ, dismiss those, or he can pardon himself. We don't know if that's constitutional, but the only way to challenge it is DOJ would have to indict him, and then they litigate it, but it will be his DOJ at that point.
Yeah.
The two state cases, we don't have any sort of case
All
law
dead on the
point,
vine.
but I will just tell you there is no possible chance that state-level prosecutors will be permitted to try a sitting president. So this is all or nothing for him if he can.
That's right.
All right, Ellie Honig.
That's right. I agree with that. I agree with that statement. I think it is all or nothing. I think Trump is playing that game. He is going to use offense as the defense. He's going to win the presidency and then just take care of all of this legal stuff on the back end. And so, of course, we'll continue to cover this. We really want to see what Judge Cannon says in the ruling. We'll see what the next trial date looks like as we continue to cover the Trump prosecution, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for inviting somebody else over to say, hey, we're covering this thing in depth. We'd love to see you as we continue to cover on the next one. All right. And so let's turn our attention now over to another prosecution that the Biden administration is bringing. Biden whistleblower Gal Luft now being prosecuted by Joe Biden's DOJ. Gal came out, released a video, says he's got all sorts of evidence on Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family. Says he met with the DOJ, was exposing all of this. They turned around, took that meeting, and said, no, we think you're actually the criminal, not Hunter, not Joe, and now they are prosecuting him. In his video, which we covered at length here. If you missed that video, certainly stick around and watch the full video. But in the video, he detailed that he's already been under indictment. He's already been prosecuted. He knew about it, but we didn't know about it. The indictment was unsealed. In the video, Luft says, unseal it. Let everybody see what's out there. Well, now it has been unsealed. And so we're going to go through the full thing. It's 59 pages. We'll hit the highlights, and we'll play a game with ourselves, asking ourselves, if we did a find and replace of Gal Luft with Hunter Biden, would the DOJ care? No, they don't care, because we've seen no charges coming for Hunter other than basic misdemeanor charges and a felony diversion. So when these charges got announced, I came across this interesting clip from MSNBC before we dig into the indictment and reaction from Congress. This journalist, so-called, on MSNBC was pretty excited about this news because the whistleblower was very damaging to the left. He was implicating Joe Biden in all sorts of criminality. That's a big no-no. So if he gets indicted, people on the left still believe in their minds that the DOJ is a legitimate institution and that they actually pursue justice in America. And so when somebody gets indicted like this, they think, oh, that's a legitimate thing that's happening, without really recognizing that it's a corrupt entity. So she gets very excited about it because the indictment of the whistleblower is going to exonerate her side. But this guest is very careful about the phrasing of the alleged crimes, and he also reveals another fact for us on MSNBC that I really think implicates Hunter. Here's what it sounded like.
Prosecutors have now indicted the man who repeatedly, but without substantiation, accused the Biden family of corruption.
Nice
intro. A copy of the indictment, reviewed by NBC News, reveals a host of charges against Gal Luft for operating as an unregistered foreign agent, working to advance the interests of China in the United States.
Did Hunter do that? Did Hunter advance the interests of China in the United States?
I want to bring in NBC News investigation correspondent Tom Winter. What more can you tell us about this? This guy considered himself some sort of whistleblower. In fact, this charge suggests he was more of a spy.
Well, yeah, and I want to be clear about that. So when you don't register as a foreign agent, you're not technically conducting espionage on their behalf, but you're putting forward their interests. And that's really one of the key components of the charges here. As you said, somebody trying to advance the interests of China and also several companies there, including CEFC and another company that was supplying arms allegedly to various countries overseas.
So you see these counts. We're going to go through the indictment: violating Arms Export Control Act, making false statements, and conspiracy to violate Foreign Agents Registration Act.
That was a whole host of other violations. But the reason why this person is in the news, the reason why we're talking about him, is that he's somebody who came forward and said that he had information involving Hunter Biden and the Biden family, that they received millions of dollars from individuals tied to Chinese intelligence, that Hunter Biden had some sort of mole within the FBI that was providing him information. We haven't seen any of those allegations substantiated.
Not yet. He's on the run. He had a meeting with the DOJ where he purportedly gave them all of that information. They just turned around and charged him with it, but not Hunter.
House Oversight Committee, particularly Congressman Comer, said, look, this is somebody he thought had serious allegations against the Bidens. And he came forward in March 2019 to tell FBI agents and federal agents about these alleged crimes that Luft says that he was aware of. Well, we know that that meeting's true, but we also know at that meeting, he allegedly, according to the indictment, which was unsealed yesterday but filed last year, that in fact he lied at that meeting. According to the Justice Department, he lied about his involvement.
Lied about the involvement, but Gal Luft says that the same people who were at that DOJ meeting were the same people who picked up the Hunter Biden laptop, right? It's the same people who've been running around cleaning up the garbage that the Bidens have been leaving behind their wake of criminality.
The Chinese company, so they have immediate questions about his credibility. As an old boss of mine said, as soon as there is one definite fact that is wrong in your story, the whole story is in question. And I think that,
unless you're the White House, who lies to us constantly. The most recent iteration about cocaine.
At the moment, that's where the Justice Department is. If you're not telling us the truth on one hand, how can we start to believe you on the other hand, on the other things that you bring forward to us? So he's a fugitive of law. He's somebody who went missing after was initially arrested in Cyprus, and somebody that the Justice Department is actively looking for.
So he's somebody who suggested something illegal was going on, for which there are no charges against the Biden family, but now.
Yeah, no charges for Biden, though. So he's saying that it was illegal, but they didn't charge Hunty.
Against.
To be clear, against him. And to be clear, the idea that the Bidens, specifically Hunter Biden and another family member, that they received money from CEFC for a business contract, we've established that. I could have told you that a year ago. We reported it. It's
true.
Close to $5 million. So some of the things he...
Whoa. So he just told her to her face. Look at that face, too. He's like, yeah, like Hunter hasn't been charged, but yeah, like he definitely got $5 million from CEFC, the same entity that this guy got money from. So he's like, yeah, and without saying it, he's saying it, right? So here it is one more time. It's quick. It's funny.
Something illegal was going on, for which there are no charges against the Biden family, but now against.
And to be clear, against him. And to be clear, the idea that the Bidens, specifically Hunter Biden and another family member, that they received money from CEFC for a business contract, we've established that. I could have told you that a year ago. We reported it. It's close to $5 million. So some of the things he has said are true, but they're also verifiable public information. Where this goes from here, whether or not there's an active investigation into the allegations he brought against the Bidens, well, that's something we continue to report out.
So he's basically saying, he could have gotten that information from public sources or something else, but it's just hysterical because he's being charged for being for not registering as a foreign agent of China, and Hunter got $5 million from CEFC. But MSNBC's not covering that story, are they? No, they're not. They're covering the indictment. So let's take a look at exactly what's going on here. This is the indictment against Gal Luft, filed by the U.S. Department of Justice. He is the whistleblower who is implicating Joe Biden. And so as we go through this, we'll hit the highlights. It's 58 pages. But we can always ask ourselves whether Hunter Biden, if you did a Control F and a Control R, find and replace on this, if we replace Gal Luft with Hunter Biden, what would the DOJ do with this material? Probably just put it right in the shredder, right? Probably wouldn't even blink an eye. Let's see. All right, so they say Gal Luft is a dual Israeli citizen engaged in multiple schemes, including with China. He agreed to covertly recruit and pay high-ranking government officials, former high-ranking government officials, which this matches his story. He was saying that he was doing business writing articles, all right? So every time they say stuff like this, covertly recruit and pay, what Gal Luft said was writing an article, just so we're clear, all right? Writing an article on behalf of a former high-ranking U.S. government official. Yeah, it's true. Happens all the time. They all leave their former high-ranking positions, just like James Baker did when he went over to Twitter. Left the FBI, went over to Twitter. Are they prosecuting Twitter for somebody writing articles? Right? It's just, it's language that is conjugated to make it massively impactful, including when he was an advisor to then President-elect Biden to publicly support certain Chinese policies. He was brokering deals in violation of the law, brokering things with Iranian oil and international, with or without authorization, in violation of the law. So here's some more information about it. They say that he has a think tank, and we already covered this previously. He was born in Israel, naturalized citizen, 2004. He has a PhD, University of Maryland, served co-director, nonprofit think tank called The Think Tank, described as a global energy security company, 1998 until a certain time. Wrote, did speeches, traveled internationally, attended meetings. Since 2017, been outside the United States. Now, Individual One, wonder who this is. At all times relevant to this indictment, the think tank managed projects, including various groups with various cabinet-level extra government advisory committees. CC1 is a Chinese national. So this person here, Individual One, a former senior U.S. government official, Individual One, co-founded the group. And he was a senior advisor at all times. So CC1 is another person, Chinese national, formerly worked with the CEFC. They say that CC1, the Chinese national, offered Gal Luft annual payments of $350,000 from CEFC to the think tank. That's pretty cheap. $350,000 a year? I mean, what did Hunter get? Like $5 million? That's cheap. So in return for this payment, CC1 and Luft agreed that they would jointly host an international meeting in a major U.S. city on energy security issues. And then they would get an honorary energy position with the energy group. All right, so they're just creating, like AstroTurf things. They sent some money for $350,000. I think that's an illegal amount. If CEFC sends Gal Luft $350,000, that's illegal. But if they send Hunter Biden $5 million, no problem. Starting in 2015 and continuing into November, Think Tank and CEFC co-sponsored multiple conferences. So they're setting up little, events, pitch a tent somewhere. CC2 is working with the Chinese defense company. They're moving funds around, and they're recruiting and educating Individual One so that he would make public statements. And again, this is where he's talking about writing the articles. He's going to ghostwrite an article for Individual One. That is what we heard from Gal Luft. He says that there were other transactions. Now here we get, wow, illicit weapons deals. Wow. And this is where he was just shocked by this. In his video, he said, no, this is nuts. I've never sold a bullet in my life. But they say that, detailed below, that he attempted to broker arms deals with Chinese individuals in Libya and Kenya. He traveled to meetings, received documentation to broker the arms deal. Let's see. They say he attempted and agreed to broker arms deals with Iranian oil and Brazilian oil. So here's the counts. They say the grand jury says that the law says the following: the purpose of FARA, the law under which he's indicted, is to prevent covert influence by foreign principals. You got to register under the statute, unless you're Hunter. Among other things, FARA registration reveals the identity of the foreign principals. And so they say Luft tried to avoid this. And again, replace this with Hunter. Hunter agreed and engaged in political activities on behalf of the CEFC China, and CC1. All that is absolutely true. We've got email documentation about all of that. Luft began sending information about Belt Road initiatives, described an email and a private meeting with the chairman of CEFC. Other emails saying, we nailed it. He was advising a then presidential candidate who was elected president 2 months later. Look at this. So it's Biden. Biden is in this indictment. This is unbelievable. Biden is in this literal indictment, and Hunter is roaming free around the country, around the world. On September 12, 2016, Gao Luft, the defendant, sent Chinese person 1 an email with the subject line, we nailed it. And that included a link to the article announcing that individual 1 was advising Biden, and Biden was elected president. And this guy's got, I mean, you can follow the whole chain. We nailed it. Later the same month, so if, in other words, if Gao Luft is guilty, everybody else in his purview, which as we know is Hunter and Joe and individual 1, are all as well. They say the same day they were staying in New York. And these are conversations, sending emails, talking with CC1. The next day he wrote, you know, there are certain topics that we should talk about, like various Sino-US issues, Chinese-US issues, and let's communicate these to the transition team. So implementing policy change, right? Actually, like lobbying, right? This is lobbying, but it's lobbying on behalf of a foreign nation. So I think that's where it becomes problematic. If he was doing it on behalf of, I don't know, you know, Bud Light or something, you know, our company's wrecked, I think that he could do a lot of this and just file his disclosures with whatever. So the drafted response continues. They're still communicating back and forth, engaging in articles, dialoguing about articles. There's a contract, a consulting services agreement from individual 2, $6,000 a month, not $83,000 that Hunter was getting from Burisma. Oh man, this guy's getting screwed. All right, look, he gets paid $6,000 a month in exchange for advice on energy and global security. $6,000 a month. Hunter was getting $83,000 a month for Burisma for advice on energy and global security. Not even close. Hunter's, I guess, much smarter though. Smartest man Joe knows. No mention of any of this. There was more purported dialogue. They're sending emails back and forth, and you just see what this is. Look, it's just a big, long list of the emails and the conversation. Individual 1, email Gao Luft. Hey, we're going to write another article. And it's a bunch of lobbying going on. All right, so let's see if we can fast forward through some of the copy-paste email stuff and I want to see the counts. All right, here's another count, count 2. Arms Export Control Act. Looks like some legal stuff. Here is his illegal trafficking activity. It says here, Luft worked to broker multiple deals to sell and deliver defense articles between foreign countries without a license, between China, Libya, and including anti-tank launchers, grenade launchers, and mortar rounds. Libya, they say Gao, the defendant, engaged in communications with Chinese person 1 regarding Luft serving as an intermediary for trafficking in arms. They refer to it as codename Toys. They say that CC1 emailed Luft, said, through a close friend of mine in Beijing, I can get you the toys needed in Libya. It's strictly a business deal. Someone has to foot the bill. Luft said, great, we'll meet him on the island and see what it's about. Toys. Interesting. Says, when do we meet with the other mischiefs? By the way, who is footing the money? Where's the money coming from? He said, attached, we've got funding mechanisms in place. And there was one document that had Ministry of Defense logos on it with the PDF on there. And so, I mean, if they have this evidence, right, that goes exactly against what Luft had said in his video. I never did anything close to this. So I'll be very curious to see what this involves. And I stand with the presumption of innocence above all. Above all. At this moment in time, the DOJ deserves no benefit of the doubt in any way, shape, or form in my book. They have fabricated evidence against many people based on corrupt FBI agents and other malicious actors. We had not guilty verdicts in the Governor Whitmer plot. Should have been more not guilty verdicts. We had not guilty verdicts in the Proud Boys case. But all of these people have had evidence created and made up against them, including Donald Trump and his first impeachment with the Steele dossier that the FBI and the DOJ shoved down everybody's gullets. So even if this stuff sounds bad, I still stand with the presumption of innocence. And we're going to see where this goes. But it sounds like, right? It sounds like they've got emails. To Luft says that they're looking for shopping lists. Says Kadar needs the toys. And so there's all these emails going back and forth. Luft said, looks like we have a middleman for Q. And they presumably have all of these emails in discovery. And let's see, there's a couple other counts. I want to hit the other counts, saying there was a deal in the United Arab Emirates. And that was the arms trafficking charge. Let's see what else we've got. Count 3 is another one, arms export controls. In the business of brokering deals for grenade launchers, man, mortar rounds. They say here, count 4 is another violation. Same deal, but in the different countries. So Kenya's one, the UAE is another one. Same deals, same conversations, just in different countries. Then they say he lied, okay, made false statements to federal agents, met with others, made fraudulent statements during interviews at Brussels. All right. And so this is where people are now questioning his credibility. They're saying, well, maybe he made all this up because he was about to be indicted. And this is his defense strategy. Other people are saying maybe the whistleblowing is what is causing these charges to be brought. Count 7 says conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And we're getting near the end of the indictment. And we can see what the judge or what the government is going to conclude with, saying he's trying to evade different sanctions in Iran and different parts of the world. Count 8, making false statements to the feds about the Iranian oil deals. They want all of his assets forfeited. Signed here by Damian Williams, Southern District of New York. So very interesting case. This has now been unsealed. And it is probably going to be a case that sits at hiatus status for some time. There will be a warrant issued until he is brought back and brought into U.S. custody. The case will be on hold. And so we're asking ourselves now, what does the White House say about this? Very interesting timing. Soon as he releases his video, they unseal the indictment. Soon as he meets with them, and it says he's going to expose the Biden crime family, they start to indict him in the first place back in 2019. And so Congress is asking questions about it. Before we hear from Ron Johnson and James Comer, this is what Jake Sullivan had to say when he was asked about this at the White House.
Yesterday, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York indicted a man named Gal Luft for violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act by working without registration for a company called CEFC China Energy. The president's son and brother worked for the same firm without registration, and the president was invoked in that infamous shakedown text message receiving the transfer of $5 million to the Biden family. The president allegedly met with their business partners, was penciled in for a 10% cut, and was listed as a participant on a call about an attempt by U.S. natural gas by CFC. What's the White House's take on potential FARA liability for the first family of the president here?
I've not seen that and can't comment on it. Yeah.
Wow. Great job, Jake. Thanks for that. What do you do again Haven't seen it, can't comment on it. So great long question. Said, you guys just indicted this guy for allegedly getting money from CEFC for foreign affairs. But we know that the Biden family also got that money from the CEFC for foreign affairs. Is there going to be a prosecution of Hunter also? Because of nobody being above the law, like you guys always tell us? I've not seen that. Can't comment on it. Next question. That's what they teach you at Oxford, apparently, those people over there. All right. So this is Ron Johnson. Now, he made this comment right before the news was breaking about the indictment being unsealed. But of course, he knows that he's already been indicted. But at the end of this clip, he's got a very interesting suggestion for us, maybe offering Gal Luft immunity.
When he heard that Joe Biden was going to be running for president, that alarmed him because he knew how compromised Joe Biden would be. So he met with 2 prosecutors from the Southern District of New York and 4 FBI agents in Brussels for 2 days in March of 2019. What's interesting about those individuals, one of the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York is the same prosecutor that prosecuted Patrick Ho, the money launderer that paid Hunter Biden $1 million to defend him. And in that trial, he prevented the name of Biden's from being brought into court. Also, one of the FBI agents was the same agent then that signed the subpoena from the Hunter Biden laptop. So, what Mr. Dr. Luft has shown is the same financial transactions, the millions of dollars, the $100,000 per month retainer for Hunter, $65,000 for James Biden, paid by CEFC. He's got a wealth of information, but they never followed up on that meeting. Instead, they arrested him in Cyprus to silence him. They could have gone to Israel. He resides in Israel. We have extradition treaties, but they instead arrest him in Cyprus. Now, he's literally fleeing for his life right now.
Yeah.
He's on the run. He's an important witness. He needs to be granted immunity to be able to testify and tell his story.
Congressional immunity, yeah. So wonder if that would work for them. They could, somehow orchestrate him getting into Congress to testify in front of Congress without the DOJ interfering in that process. We'd love to hear about it. So it sounds like it's an interesting question. We'll see if Congress gets serious about it. But Representative James Comer also was commenting on this, saying, we got some real interesting timing on this one. Very convenient that when this guy starts to pipe up about Joe Biden, they indict him and then they arrest him in Cyprus.
Congressman Comer, today, Congressman Comer, your reaction to the timing of that indictment?
Well, the timing is always coincidental, according to the Democrats at the Department of Justice. Look, here's what I know about Gal Luft. He was getting paid, like the Bidens, from CEFC. We want to speak with everyone that we can find who was also on the payroll of CEFC, like the Bidens. And anyone who says we shouldn't take Gal Luft's allegations seriously discounts the fact that the Bidens wanted to share office space with CEFC, even going so far as to saying that Hunter wanted to make an extra set of keys for both Joe Biden, Jill Biden, and the president's brother, Jim Biden. So this company that Gal Luft was working for, who he was getting paid for, is the same company that the Bidens not only were getting paid for, they were also sharing office space with. So we definitely want to hear more about these allegations, and we want to see the notes from the FBI meeting. They sent 6 FBI agents, according to Gal Luft, to Brussels to interview him. I mean, obviously, they were concerned about something he had to say. There's some level of credibility there. So there are a lot of questions here, and it's just amazing the Department of Justice moves so quickly against some people. But then, Laura, the ultimate irony is one of the charges they levied against him was not being a registered foreign agent, which is the main thing that we've said the Bidens were
100%.
all along, unregistered foreign agents.
Oh, well.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. They charge him with the same thing. I mean, the dude was advising Joe Biden. So that they don't care about that because it's all about political muscle. It's not about justice. It's not about stopping bad arms deals or something, or, being influenced by China. Hunter Biden was running around doing everything they're claiming this guy did times 1,000, but he just roams free because daddy's the president, and to allow him to get hit with any of this stuff would jeopardize their hold on power. This guy also jeopardizes their hold on power, and so we'll continue to follow this case and stand up for the presumption of innocence as he continues to speak out about the Biden crime family. And my friends, thank you for inviting someone else that you know and love to come in and join us as we cover this case. He's going to need our support as this unfolds, and we'll be continuing to cover it right here. All right. And so, my friends, we've got one final segment on the day about our rotten FBI. We already knew that the FBI was colluding with the big tech companies in violation of our First Amendment civil liberties, and a federal judge held them accountable for that. But we are now learning, thanks to a House Judiciary Committee report, that the FBI was also working with foreign intelligence to censor us. It wasn't just them on their own sending emails over to Zuckerberg's team and saying, can you delete this? It really offends our sensibilities about the pandemic or about the election or about Joe Biden. They're also taking orders, it sounds like, from Ukraine, working with their intelligence agencies. If you don't like the war, maybe the Ukrainian intelligence people will complain to our FBI, and then our FBI will literally censor us. We're going to go through the full report, and then we'll see what Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, has to say about this. But this is the story over from the Judiciary Committee in conjunction with the Select Subcommittee on Weaponization of the Federal Government. You can see they titled this puppy, "The FBI's Collaboration with a Compromised Ukrainian Intelligence Agency to Censor American Speech." Our intelligence agency colluding with other intelligence agencies to censor lawful First Amendment protected speech, to criticize a war, to criticize our elected officials. We're supposed to be allowed to do that. Coming out of the United States House of Representatives, they give us an executive summary here. Starting out with a quote from President Zelensky, July 17th, 2022. They say, Zelensky said, "Such an array of crimes against the foundation of the state's national security and the links recorded between Ukrainian security forces and Russian special services raise very serious questions about their respective leaders." Such an array of crimes against the foundations of the state's national security and the links recorded between Ukrainian security forces and Russian special services raise very serious questions about their respective leaders. Interesting statement. So doubting Russian special services and Ukrainian security forces and the links between the two. Huh. The executive summary from Congress tells us the following about this collusion, and you can see this chain of connection here. They say the First Amendment to the Constitution is the bedrock of our system, guarantees, at one time, every American the right to speak his or her mind freely and without government interference. It's predicated on the understanding that no government official has a monopoly on truth and that every American can decide for themselves. But on April 15th, as part of its investigation into the government's role on censoring lawful speech, the Judiciary Committee issued a subpoena to Facebook, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and to Alphabet, the parent company of Google and YouTube. Documents obtained in response to these subpoenas revealed that the FBI, on behalf of a compromised Ukrainian intelligence entity, requested and in some cases directed the world's largest social media platforms to censor Americans engaging in constitutionally protected speech online. We see here the chain of command. The FSB in Russia infiltrates Ukraine. The SBU. The FSB infiltrates, they say, the SBU. Then the SBU issues a takedown request to the FBI. And then the FBI sends the takedown request over to the social media platforms, and then the social media platforms remove it. Now, I've got a big question about this here, whether the FSB is infiltrating Ukraine. What I expect is that Ukraine themselves are probably just saying, we don't like this speech. FBI, can you please take it down for us? But this little excuse here is, always blaming Russia for everything. So let's see what this says. I have a hard time believing that Russia is infiltrating Ukraine to ask the FBI to remove articles that are critical of Ukraine. Wouldn't they want those to exist? Anyways, let's see where this goes. Now, the committee's investigation has revealed that the FBI, the federal law enforcement agency responsible for disrupting foreign influence, facilitated censorship requests to the American social media companies on behalf of a Ukrainian intelligence agency that they say was infiltrated by Russian-aligned actors. Russian-aligned actors infiltrated Ukraine. All right. So in so doing, the FBI violated the First Amendment rights and potentially undermined our security. In light of well-documented instances of the FBI's civil liberty abuses, this new information raises grave concerns about the FBI and their credibility as a law enforcement organization. Let's see. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, sought to identify and impair suspected Russian influence operations on social media. That makes sense. Russia's out doing their thing. Ukraine's doing their thing. Fine. That's informational warfare. Perfectly fine. Stay out of our free speech. The SBU enlisted the FBI in support of this effort, transmitting the list to FBI list of social media accounts that allegedly, quote, spread Russian disinformation. All right. The FBI, in turn, routinely relayed these lists to the relevant social media companies, which distribute internally for enforcement. The graphic above illustrates the FBI's role and the SBU's censorship operation. The graphic illustrates the frequency with which the requests were sent by the FBI and the SBU to American social media companies. So you see the schedule here. It's just great. Yeah, I mean, we've got the invasions in February. So March 2022, Ukrainian intelligence, and I'm still trying to figure out this non sequitur here, right? Because this paragraph doesn't say anything about this censorship request coming from Russia. It's the SBU taking it on their own accord. So on Tuesday, they're like, oh, but we got bad posts on Google, Instagram, and Facebook. Delete those. Instagram on Wednesday. Go back to Google. YouTube, big problems on the 11th, the 18th, the 25th. Those dang, conservative commentators out there questioning the endless war. Get them on the 28th. Go after Twitter on the 27th. Facebook on the 22nd to 29th. Censor, censor, censor. The committee's analysis of these disinformation registries revealed that the FBI, at the request of the SBU, flagged authentic accounts of Americans, including a verified U.S. State Department account and those belonging to American journos. Okay? FBI and the SBU repeatedly requested the removal and the suspension of authentic accounts, expressing unambiguously pro-Ukrainian views, as well as those voicing opposition to Russian President Putin. Which is strange to me. Why would they request pro-Ukrainian views as well as those, like they're content neutral? I mean, really, they're removing both sides in that one request. At times, the FBI would even follow up with the relevant platform to ensure that the accounts were taken down. Regardless of its purpose, the FBI had no justification for censoring at all. Yeah, it doesn't really matter at all. Shouldn't have removed anything. So in July 2022, Zelensky fired the head of SBU, saying that the Russians infiltrated the SBU. Given that the SBU was compromised by a network of Russian collaborators, sympathizers, and double agents at the time, is concerning. So the FBI, cooperating with the SBU, may have been actively working with the Russians. The inclusion of the American accounts on the SBU's list indicates the FBI either did not properly vet their requests or was aware of their domestic nature, nevertheless carried them out. Findings highlight the need for additional oversight. Yeah, regardless, the FBI should not have been censoring anything. It's a violation of civil liberties in the United States. So that's the executive summary. Let's take a look at what else is going on here. Says here, there were various components. There was a foreign influence task force created by Director Wray, led by Chief Laura Demlow, became the head of the organization. They had a San Francisco field office where we know Agent Elvis Chan worked. Here's one email. Elvis said, in response, he sent this email to Facebook. Elvis Chan, who censored pandemic and election stuff, says, Facebook, I know I sound like a broken record over here, but can you ensure all Facebook referrals about foreign influence elections come through me? We've had some things fall through the cracks, and I want to make sure everyone's looped in. There were 63 legal attaché offices known as legats around the world serving the FBI. Here's about Russian infiltration. They say the FBI's reliance on the SBU's information and judgment is alarming. We know that there was deep-rooted Russian influence in the SBU. In July, Zelensky fired the head of the SBU, months after the FBI had fulfilled their censorship requests. They give us some history about the collapse of the Soviet Union and the SBU. They say that Zelensky purged the SBU of Russian collaborators after they censored Americans. And the extent of Russian influence in the SBU today is unclear. All of the FBI's actions in this case occurred prior to Zelensky's removal of this guy, Bakanov, from his top post. So saying simply here, the FBI worked with and on behalf of a foreign intelligence agency, widely known to be compromised by Moscow at the time, and indirectly and directly abetted efforts to censor Americans and their protected speech. So literally, FBI agents had the potential to render substantial aid to the Kremlin. Oh, man, that's your FBI for you, man. They're like, yeah, sure. Putin's like texting, He's like texting the SBU, I guess. I don't like this tweet, delete it. FBI's like, sure. It's just amazing. So Congress reports it, says FBI censorship efforts went on in full effect. They sent Meta massive spreadsheets with thousands of accounts to remove. Here's one from Alexander. This one's coming from Kyiv, Ukraine. I have a few more Instagram and Facebook accounts, according to the SBU, that spread Russian disinformation. For your review and action is deemed appropriate. Does that sound like a Russian agent on this email? Alexander Kobzanets spreading Russian disinformation? Probably not, right? Probably removing pro-Russian accounts, because everybody who says anything, I would say, that is even, unless you're like actively anti-Russian, then I guess you're a Putin apologist. It's really two worlds according to them. You're either actively anti-Russian or you're a Putin apologist. It's like you can't live in those worlds. So if you're somebody who is challenging the standard narrative that we all must sacrifice everything for Ukraine or we all die, I would guess those are the stories, those are the tweets that they want removed. He sent 2 spreadsheets to his email. One spreadsheet had 15,000 items. Instagram, Facebook post, Reels, 5,000 Facebook accounts, spreading Russian disinformation. Yeah, here's the spreadsheet. Coming out of the SBU. It's just amazing. Full lists. By cross-referencing the names with the flagged accounts, the committee verified many of the accounts labeled USA are authentic. They belong to real people. Many comments on this list are no longer accessible. Some of these accounts include a photographer, studio in New York, a manager, moving company, South Carolina, musician, vocalist, Minnesota, professor, University, California, a book author for kids' books, Washington. Nice. Just removing people from their political conversations that they're absolutely legally entitled to have under the United States Constitution. But they offered them legal cover to remove. This guy says, I work with Elvis Chan. Would you be able to tell me if these accounts or if you need some legal process from us? Can you just delete those things for us? The SBU requested the removal of a verified U.S. State Department account and an American journalist. The Security Service of Ukraine, the FBI, is like, oh, sure, whatever you guys need. Ukraine, change our profile pictures. They say, we've identified a number of Instagram accounts used in the interest of the aggressor country to distribute content that promotes war, inaccurately reflects events in the Ukraine, and justifies Russian war crimes in Ukraine in violation of international law, and used to assist the army of the aggressor country by transmitting information and movement of the forces, namely all of these accounts. So your name just shows up on a list. Foreign government intelligence agencies monitoring what we talk about here, demanding that they be removed. Why would the Ukrainian government try to remove a U.S. State Department verified Instagram account? Yeah. They say, oh no, we didn't. We were infiltrated by Russia. Oh no, Russia. They infiltrated us. They're the ones responsible for removing harmful information against us. All right. So the list of Instagram accounts included people who had self-styled socialist views. This guy, Agent Kobzanets, relayed SBU requests for months. In just 1 month, he sent the same employee at least 10 requests to consider removal. Here's another one. Here's another set of lists. They also removed stuff that was critical of Russia, the invasion, and Vladimir Putin. And they were supportive of Ukraine. In a response to a post by the government, another post was in Russia. And they removed that one. Looks like this one is posted here. LinkedIn posts are no longer available. So they also established a 24/7 channel to respond to the intelligence agency's request. Yeah, just send us a message anytime you need it. We'll take care of that for you. They also censored Google and YouTube. Amazing. We didn't get any Ukraine war strikes, but maybe we will for this video. First of all, thank you and your team for being so very responsive to the Ukraine request. After some convincing, I think the issue has been put to rest. They're focused on other important priorities. Let us know if you need anything from us, from the FBI. Submitting more and more requests. And it looks like they even created a form. Yeah. So you could ask Google and YouTube to block specified channels. San Francisco, Elvis says, we got receipt. Thanks for letting us know. We'll remove those Putin apologists from our platforms. They also tried to censor people on Twitter. The suspected accounts are suspected by Ukraine intelligence in spreading fear and disinformation. Look at this. Spreading fear and disinformation. Yoel Roth, the head of Twitter, said, no, it's a mix of individual accounts, even includes journalists. So we're not removing all those people. All right, so you can see. They say, in enabling a compromise foreign intelligence agencies, request to censor Americans, the FBI never once noted in documents about what they've done here. They never told social media companies to disregard certain requests. and the FBI in general is not permitted to demand censorship. To make matters worse, no one at the FBI raised any concerns about Russia and their influence over the SBU. Instead, the FBI seems to have endorsed their censorship requests and routinely referred them out. They're like, we love what you're doing here. Yeah, remove it. The FBI even followed up with the platforms when there was inadequate responses. And so this report details misconduct by the FBI that is unconstitutional. It is also counterproductive to the aims of the Biden administration, which is to support Ukraine. They say it's all about democracy and Western civilization. Meanwhile, they're censoring people who object to endless war. The FBI's conflation of domestic speech with foreign malign influence poses a grave threat to America and our civil liberties. As exposed by the testimony of various whistleblowers, the FBI's propensity to misconduct knows no limits. This is not the first time the government has tried to do this stuff. And whenever an executive branch agency is empowered by Congress, we have the right to oversight. They conclude saying, efforts to counter this foreign disinformation have noble intentions, but the government censorship of domestic speech cannot and should not be accepted as collateral in a perpetual war against influence. In order to better inform, we're going to continue to investigate what the FBI has done and how they are censoring Americans. And so, it's like, why am I not surprised? It's a horrific thing that the FBI does this. It's even more of a horrific thing that the FBI is just taking orders from foreign intelligence. Would you like fries with that removal? Yeah. Okay, great. Pull around to the front window. We'll have them taken down by then. Nonstop. And the fact that they are doing it and they don't even feel badly about it, they just are continuing to fight for more power and appealing the judge's order that said they had to stop this stuff, means that this is their new strategy for the future. They don't want to combat anybody in the arena of ideas. They'd rather just use the strong arm of the government to remove you from the field. And when they're asked about it, when Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, is asked a very important question on this, is this like the new protocol? Jake, is this what you guys are up to? Here's what he says.
On Ukraine, there's a new House Judiciary report that says the FBI partnered with the Ukrainian intelligence agency to assess disinformation and censor those social media accounts. Apparently, some accounts of journalists, even one of the State Department, were wrapped up in this initiative. What are you able to tell us about the initiative, and especially the White House and NSA involvement?
I have not seen that report. All I will tell you is that the United States and the Biden administration strongly support press freedom, media freedom, and would support no steps that would be taken to undermine that.
Oh, all right. That's another Oxford answer, everybody. Haven't seen it, can't comment on it, but you know us. We stand for press freedom and free speech in America. We all know that's hogwash. My friends, there will be more censorship. There will be more FBI collusion, probably with more other entities. Maybe even with Ukraine still, to continue to censor us. We will continue to cover it. Thank you for joining us as we do. And by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell, you'll make sure that you don't miss the next one. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. All right, my friends. That is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground, did some heavy lifting, got updates on the FBI collusion with Ukrainian intelligence. We've got updates on the Biden DOJ and the indictment of the Hunter whistleblower known as Dr. Gal Luft. And we also got the very interesting filing in the Trump case. I actually really enjoyed reading that continuance. And I think we can see what this defense is going to look like. And so Trump trial postponed indefinitely is what they're asking for. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about all of this. And I appreciate all of the extremely generous donos and support on the day. And hey, we had one come in yesterday that we missed because the show was just ending. But thanks to our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and our friends on Rumble and YouTube for all of the amazing support. Yesterday, we had woman noun, female adult human in the house. So if you're on the blue team here and you're still struggling with this definition, there it is for you. Get your notepads out. Says, you're the best. Thank you, woman, noun, female, adult, human. in the House for the amazing dono yesterday. This one came in from 2012. Jameson says, to use trials as a campaign is a Hatch Act, huh? Well, I think so. Hatch Act, I think, is applying to if you're already in a position of power. You're not supposed to comment on your political opponents. This is different. They're just saying, we're just going to prosecute him. So it's a whole different set of facts. But very interesting question. Yeah, it's a violation of the Hatch Act, I'd say. Jameson says, the bigger question is, does the law apply? Well, I think what we saw from the Trump defense is that they think that no. They think that they're going to be able to file some just simple substantive motions and that those will be dispositive. A motion to preclude the search warrant, the fruits of the search warrant. A motion to dismiss based on a constitutional provision that the documents are his, the opinion clause, I think would be a good one. We'll see. This one from Bruce Leroy. Welcome as a supporter to our YouTube membership. And I think this one came in from V. He says, who's the master? Like from Bruce Lee, I think. Bruce Leroy, welcome as a supporter. And don't forget to grab that Telegram link so that you can join our permachat. And we'll also be here tomorrow for our members-only morning stream, which is where we hit some of the other stuff that we can't talk about here. Good to see you, Bruce Leroy. Welcome in. Linda Ramey's in the house says, yes, I don't have to watch the news anymore. All I have to do is watch you. Thank you so very much. Well, thank you, Linda. That is a really nice compliment. We try to cover, a lot of the good stuff. But I will be honest with you. I really have a hard time watching the news. I think Tucker was the end of it. When he's gone, it's like, what's the point? But it is important to stay informed. And so I'm really grateful that you trust us to go through it. And hopefully you continue to join us, Linda. But thank you very much for sending that one in. Very nice of you. Southern Comfort says they are trying to rush the case because they already sent out letters to each state to try to disqualify Trump by being on the ballots. Connect the dots. Yeah, we actually talked about that at length, Southern Comfort, yesterday. And there's a big effort. I'm not sure if you saw that show. But yeah, they sent a letter to Nevada. And I think this is going to be a big effort coming up into the future. And although if you missed yesterday's show, they're saying that Trump doesn't even need to be convicted. Okay, they're just saying that the state secretary of states can just decide on their own whether Trump committed an insurrection. So it's even one step worse than that, Southern Comfort. And they sent that letter out yesterday, which is just nuts. But thank you for the amazing dono and for being here. And we got Dolphin Fan is the man, who is bringing in 5 new membos. Thank you very much, Dolphin. We've got Laura Holy F. We've got The Old Bag is joining us. Irene A is joining us, along with Mary Paquette, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man. And this was our meme, courtesy of Gigam Gigam and Vienticus Prime clipping away for us. Appreciate you both. Debbie says, for tonight's swear jar, I might be active. And Debbie, I think I saw that one come in during the Jake Tapper segment. So I can relate to that. Yeah. When they're all sitting around, the four of them sitting around. Although I thought it was an interesting conversation. It's interesting to hear them talk about it. I think, they know as little as we do about what's actually happening, but their speculations are, charged in a different direction. So swear away, Debbie. You've got license now. Thanks for the support on that one. Salty Sarge says, Caitlin Collins has taken RBF to full-on active. What a nasty woman, says Salty Sarge. RBF, if you don't know what that is, it's resting face of a certain variety. Some people have it when they sit there and they just kind of, Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Southern Comfort says, if he can be found guilty on any of these indictments, then they can pressure the states to disqualify him and remove him from the ballots. Yeah, I think that you're right about that. I think that they will try to do that. They're going to say that he is an active, he's a convicted felon. Now, the one that they're really going to try to use a lot on, so like the classified documents, they'll say, well, he's disqualified. Well, they're going to have a hard time on the classified documents case to argue disqualification. Because even if you say like he's a reckless man with classified materials or whatever, that's not an insurrection under the 14th Amendment. And being a felon alone doesn't disqualify you. But if he is convicted under he gets indicted in DC for January 6th, they get him convicted, that would be a conviction for a seditious conspiracy. And then they would use that to say that translates to insurrection. Or maybe they charge him with some insurrection statute. I mean, I have a hard time imagining that, but maybe they actually do. And even the charge, Southern Comfort, maybe they say that even the charge, because it could possibly result in a conviction, justifies leaving him off of the ballot pending the outcome of the conviction. Like they're going to make that argument. It's just a timing thing. Well, he's been charged with insurrection. And so until we know that, we can't let him on. So think of it like a hiatus. Okay, like Trump can't run in 2024. He could run in 2028 once the trial's concluded. But while it's pending, no, we can't let him on. And Southern Comfort, if you missed it yesterday, we did a whole segment on they're not even saying they need a conviction now. All right, there's this organization called Free Speech for People, and we covered it yesterday on the live stream, and we're going to clip it out into a segment. But he's saying that now, as of this moment, they don't even need a conviction. He's arguing the Secretary of States can disqualify them just on their own. It's absolutely nuts. But he wrote a whole letter about it, and they sent it to Nevada, the Secretary of State there. So we'll see. They're going to try it full on. They're going to go hard on this, just like they did in 2020 with all of the COVID litigation. Lots of litigation to try to just change the election rules a little bit. They're going to do it again. Good comment, Southern Comfort. This one from Pickle Jars for Hillary that she can never open. Anyone not voting Biden will be arrested in 2024. We're not far off from that, man. Or banned or something. Scooter McDuder says, you know how I know the whistleblower isn't a Chinese spy? Because Eric Swalwell hasn't slept with him. But that's how the whistleblower is. Yeah, his name is Dr. Gal Luft, not Dr. Gal Bang Bang, all right? If his name was Dr. Gal Bang Bang, we'd have a problem. We'd have to get eyes on Eric Swalwell. All right, where's Eric again? Is he at Dr. Gal Bang Bang's house? But no, it's Dr. Gal Luft. And he would never be caught with Eric Swalwell, who stinks, man. He's stinky. All right, we also had Salty Sarge. Says, so was Gal Luft shipping weapons to Libya for Hillary Clinton during their Gaddafi regime change operation under Obama? That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, what if all these weapons transactions are for Hunter? You know, I don't know. Or for Hillary or Obama. Who knows, man? It's just amazing. Layers upon layers upon layers. What I think's interesting, though, is the internal battle, right? He's trying to blow the whistle. They indict him. And the fact is that he's right, you know, hand in hand. He was riding shotgun with Hunter, who was doing the driving in a lot of this stuff. And Hunter just escapes all immunity. It's just incredible. So let's see what else we got. Thank you, Salty, for that one. Michael Manson in the house as a new supporter. Welcome aboard, my friend. We're glad that you joined us. And don't forget to join us tomorrow morning. We do a lot of extra fun stuff for our members, which is more content, baby. We love that. All right. Angie Warren, a member for 2 months. Welcome. For 2 months. Okay, things are warming up here. Things are warming up. You know, the first month's the hardest. Once you make it into the second month, things get a little bit of a groove. So we're glad that you're here with us, Angie. Says, hi, Rob, and everyone in the chat. What's up, Angie? We're glad you made it. Thanks for being here. Fred says, if I had a nickel for every grenade I sold, Johnny says, yeah, I guess he'd be a billionaire because he's our show's arms dealer. We have this one from Gentifer. Says, I don't believe one word of the charge is not a one. There are legitimate arms dealers. Plenty ex-military even moved to the Middle East to flog the American weapons. The DRJ are a mafia, period. It's a good comment. I don't know. You know, I've never represented an arms dealer or anything like that. So I don't know how common these things are or what the deals are. But, you know, a part of me says if I would imagine that the U.S. doesn't have much jurisdiction in some of these things. Like if China wants to sell arms to Libya, I don't really know what the DOJ's involvement in that is, to be perfectly honest with it. And if this guy's an Israeli citizen and he wants to facilitate that, and it's not in violation of international law, yeah, there are, I would imagine, all sorts of business and weapons transactions that happen all over the country, just like anything else. And not everything has to go through the DOJ. But this is, they'll make a mountain out of a molehill. They show me the man, they'll show you the crime. And I agree with you. The DOJ are a mafia. So it's why I'm saying, I know a lot of people read the indictment and they go, all right, this guy's done for. He's an arms dealer. I'm not there at all. Okay, first of all, let's see what the evidence says. Because if they show us what they've shown us for January 6th or what they've shown us for Whitmer or any of these other fake hoaxes, I'm sure it's not convincing. So great point on that one, Jennifer, and thank you for pointing that one out. A Bad Poet says, billions sent to Ukraine. How much is sent back? Well, some of it goes back into Hunter Biden's bank account through Burisma. So, or went into his bank account. So now where do the billions go? I don't know, to rebuilding that and going into the next iteration of whoever Hunter Biden is. Norman Smith says, censorship is un-American. America was born out of the healthy exchange of ideas. Thanks for the information and analysis, Rob. I couldn't agree with you more, Norman. It's like the First Amendment. It's there for a reason. It is one of the most critical principles that has ever manifested itself out of the human experience and been codified into law is the First Amendment. It's like sacred. Doesn't exist in other parts of the world. That's how rare it is. And we have the FBI and the DOJ and the Biden and the left just crapping all over it like it's meaningless. It boils my blood. Good to see you, Norman. The Midwest Express is here. Welcome, my friend. We're glad that you joined us. And it's going to be great. We're going to have a morning members-only stream tomorrow. So the Midwest Express, I hope to see you. And that real good boy in your profile pic. What a handsome fella. I see him. Hopefully he joins us tomorrow too. All right. And so that was from the Midwest Express. Salty Sarge says, Rob, watching the Watchers merch would sell. Mugs, hats, a slightly too tight t-shirt that shows off your Second Amendment. Robert's ruler gear would be bad A. But I guess that last bit has been denied. So the Salty Sarge, I actually have a stack right here of the first round of printing of merch. It's right here. I have all the things. I'm a little bit unhappy with some of the things though. And so we're probably going to have to do an alternative provider. I got a shirt, I got a hat, I've got this. I was teasing locals about this, but I've got a really fun product, I think, that I designed, and I designed them for myself so that I could have them, and I want to reprint them. So the goal is to get all of this launched by July. So we have on deck, we've got a newsletter coming out, which is probably going to be launched like this next week. And then I'm going to try a second set of prints from another supplier. We're already working on it. And I want it to be good, man. I want our store to be good. I don't want a bunch of garbage crap to fly off the shelves. So I got a big stack of stuff here, and I'm like, like some of it's good, some of it's not good. So we're going back again, and we're going to do a reprint with a different provider. We've got actually several different things going right now. And so the newsletter will be first, and the newsletter is supposed to be an after the show summation. So basically the next morning, you'll get a summary of the day's show prior, along with the clips that have been edited from the show. So you get links to those clips with the summary, and there will be articles that summarize the actual videos, and that's going to come out every day like clockwork. But we're building the infrastructure. And so like if we get, banned or anything like that, we'll have a nice newsletter. You'll always be able to get the content. And we're using Rumble as the back end for the website. So all of the video will be archived in Rumble. All of the newsletter stuff will be on Rumble back end. And it's going to be very robust. Because I think that what's going to happen in this next election are shenanigans. I mean, if you remember here, this entire channel got demonetized for 9 months after January 6th because we were contesting and covering the litigation that Trump was filing all around America. And so they really hit us hard after that. And that we got strikes for election misinformation. We got all sorts of stuff. And I anticipate that there's going to be another round of that this next cycle, probably much more. So, I want to make sure that we have the ability to continue the work that we do here, that we can communicate and we can continue to persevere and hold these maniacs accountable, even when they try to tighten the screws on us. So we're building a lot of infrastructure, and I think the newsletter will be an important part of that because it's sort of a nice way to stay connected outside of the big tech platforms. And we're getting close, man. It's getting real close. And then the merch will be fun. I have this one thing. I can't wait to share it with you guys. I think it's great. Everybody I show it to, they're like, yeah, that's pretty great. But you don't know until you actually, we'll see if anybody actually buys it. But I think it's pretty great. All right. And so that was from Salty Sarge. Thank you for that, Salty Sarge. Robert's Rulers Gear would be bad A. Well, we never know. I'm open to experiments, man. Open to experiments. But it's going to be fun. We've got a lot of cool stuff rolling out. And then once that infrastructure is in place, once we have a robust website and a newsletter, and we can feel a little bit more independent of some of these other platforms, I've got a lot more stuff that we want to get cooking. But I don't have anywhere to house these ideas yet. So we got to get, the basic stuff housed so that I got to build like a shelf so I can fill the shelf up. And we're doing that right now. We've been working our cabooses off, and I'm like disappointed, I was wanting to roll this all out like this week or next week, and all the stuff came in. I'm like, it's good, but it's not great. And I want it to be great. I'm kind of like that. So we're just going to push things back another week or two. I'm going to try a new provider. We're already working on translating all of the designs over. We're going to try a reprint, and we'll see. It should be fun. I don't want to, I hate just garbage crap. Like, I don't want you to get a t-shirt and then be like, this thing sucks, and just throw it in the drawer. So maybe, I want it to be good. So we're doing another round at it. We're not going to rush it. But I am a little frustrated. I have to share that. I was hoping that we could just go. Well, we can't do it. I decided that yesterday, actually. It's like, no, these aren't good enough. We're back to the drawing board. All right. So thank you for that one. And Andres Berzins says, how much does this Congress report about censorship affect the case in Louisiana? It's a great question. I think that it is relevant. So we covered this morning, Andres Berzins, which was the appeal. So this is what we talked about with our members this morning, was this case. And the government has already appealed to the Fifth Circuit, asking for a stay on the injunction, basically saying, while we appeal this case, allow us to continue to censor Americans. And so the government, the states are going to respond to this. And I think that to Andres's question is that in their response, they could also include that in their appeal. Say, look, the Judiciary Committee from Congress also just did this great report, and they're saying this is even worse than we thought. And because that stuff was not included in the judge's ruling, his opinion that articulated and detailed all of the censorship. So I think they'll basically just give it as another example of how bad this stuff is. Red Ones in the House says, since the globalists got exposed with COVID, they've accelerated their agenda. CBDC coming in August, Trump speedy trial, power grid, 15-minute city, etc. I think good stuff on that. Yeah, I think CBDC is going to be a big one. And that's going to be a nice line in the sand. We talk about old world, new world. And we talk about, location and allocation, and time, attention, money, energy, and effort. Money is a big one of those things. Where are you allocating your money? And what is the CBDC going to be doing? A lot of people are going to throw their entire livelihood into that. Others will just use it as needed for their lives, and they'll diversify and become anti-fragile. But I think I agree with you that a lot of these things we're coming to a fever pitch point, and the 2024 election is not going to be a normal thing. We're going to have one of our candidates under 4 indictments. Red One says, why was Alina Abba removed by Trump or his team? So I think she got reassigned, actually. I think she got moved over to his a campaign, general counsel for the campaign, I think is where she's landed. So I imagine we'll still see her doing commentary, but not the legal work. I just think it's just probably a better seat for her. There are lawyers with different skill sets. Some lawyers are great writers and great researchers and great document drafters and strategists. Other lawyers are great media people, great conversationalists, litigators, people who like to communicate. And, different people move to different seats. A very important position, part of life is to make sure you've got the right people in the right seats. Comes from a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's a business book. Sometimes businesses don't work because you have the wrong people and you got to replace the people. Sometimes the businesses don't work because you have the right people, but they're in the wrong seat. You just got to move them around. That person shouldn't be doing that job. Put them over here, do that job. So you just move them around. And that, I think, is what's happening with that. Although I don't know more details than that. Steel Stargazer says, just wanted to tell you how much I enjoy your arms. Well, thank you, Steel Stargazer. I do like to do Bicep Day. It's a very fun day. I enjoy Bicep Day. It's not only Bicep Day, okay, but I do happen to enjoy Bicep Day. I do like to do back in Bicep Day, it's probably one of my favorite days if we're going to be honest about it. I know how shallow it is, but what can I say? Curls for the girls, baby. I love it. All right, so we've got Lauren Brown says, Rob, it's L. Oh, it's L. What's up, L? I know L. L's on Twitter. Hey, if you're not following L on Twitter, you absolutely should be. Says, got some details about Fulton County that I want to collaborate with you on if you're down. Glad I got to catch the show live for once. Talk soon. Love to. Yeah, I love L's work. So if you're not already following L, you should be on Twitter. She's great. She does very good digging. And Fulton County, Georgia sounds like a good one. So yeah, let's connect. L in the house. Good to see you, L. And your name's Lauren. That's good to know. I didn't even know that. I've known you as L for years. And my friends, if you want to talk about somebody who has been through the ringer on cancellations and social media, I think that L is probably the most banned person that I've known on Twitter. Banned and recreated accounts multiple times. It's a hilarious thing. And perseveres. So it's good to see you, L, in the house. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks for the super chat. We had this one from Ray K. Says, meetup. I need to put it in my calendar. We were talking about that, Ray K. We were talking about something like maybe the Vegas Sphere at some point. We were kicking this around on locals. But the Sphere opened up, and there's going to be shows in the Sphere in October. And so we were thinking maybe near the end of the year, maybe like a Q4 thing, a meetup in Vegas, maybe see if we could get like a suite for the Sphere show. We were poking around the Sphere. It's crazy. I mean, it's just a crazy thing. The eyeballs and the spaceships and all sorts of stuff. So it's a good idea. We're kicking it around over on locals. Jameson says, if you need anything, I help. Well, thanks, Jameson. Thank you for the nice offer, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're working hard. And I think we've got all the mechanics in place, but I do appreciate it, Jameson. Thanks for being here, man. Just being here and just watching the show and sharing the show, liking the video, like those are so critically important. I look at my analytics and I can see, I think YouTube really doesn't like to promote our variety of political content. And so your shares, your, inviting people to join us is really a huge help. I mean, that really helps a lot. So thanks for doing that. And we had this one. Jameson says, government collusion with media helps Trump. I wonder about that. Is there a consequence to all of this cheating? I think Americans hate cheaters and Americans hate bullies. We do believe in justice. We do believe in equal laws. And the fact that Trump is on the receiving end of a bullying government, I think it helps him. And the media is doing the same thing. And people just say, enough of this crap. We know they're all corrupt, but you're only prosecuting our guy. That's not fair. This one from Pope Rackets Touched Me says, remember when arm dealer was traded for drug smugglers? Yes, I do. I remember that was the Merchant of Death was traded for Brittany Griner. Yeah, good trade. Merchant of Death for a basketball player. 2012 Jameson says, my skill is research, but media is key in the law. That's another astute observation, Jameson. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of what we're trying to do here. When I see the arena, when I see the playing field, I feel like the right needs a stronger voice in this arena, in the court of public opinion. against these legal onslaughts. And so that's some of the work that we're trying to do here. But other lawyers are very important. Like same thing with Alina, right? Like she's got to go out there and sell her position. And then there are other lawyers who can do the research and the writing. So I think there's a good way to find the right people for the right seats. Ray K says, an easy way to check who your God is. How do you spend your extra time, money, and thoughts? Helps to put me back on track. A twist on your idea. Yeah, that is a good thought. I like that a lot, Ray K. How do you spend your extra time, money, and thoughts? Helps put me back on track. It's a twist on your idea. Yeah, I mean, your actions can speak to that. And if you just do an accounting, on your time. So if you go through time, attention, money, energy, and effort, where's your time going? Where's your attention going? What are you thinking about? What are you focusing on? Where's your money going? It's an actual expenditure. You're spending money on all certain things that aren't serving you anymore. Why is that? And your energy and your effort. What are you putting your effort into? Is it something that's going to serve you? Is it something that's going to produce something that is going to be staying with you into your future? Or is it something that has a low ROI? It's a good thought, Ray K. And I think it's important. And we're going to, continue to harp on that stuff because I think that's something positive that we can all be doing, is minding our minds. Where is it? What are we doing with our minds? Horatio is here. Horatio says, long live Anonymous. In the house. Long live Anonymous. In the house. Horatio Spinelli. We had this one from Eric. Eric K says, welcome to supporter. Oh, no, that's not a comment. That's me saying, welcome to supporter. Eric is a supporter. Welcome. Welcome to the supporter community, brother. And so we're going to have our members only morning stream tomorrow. We would love to see you over there. Facts Matter says, Rob, please stand up. I got a bet with John McGarvey. Facts Matter. Those types of requests are reserved for my OnlyFans account. Request denied. Bet denied. And so, my friends, that is it for us on the day. And on the day, we are going to leave it there. Oh, wait, we got Twitter. Let's say hello to Twitter and see what else is happening over on Twitter. All right, and so we've got this one came in. Well, let me see how many viewers we've got over here. 4 people. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Let's see what some of the comments say. Deplorable Fred is here. Says, I honestly don't know if I can continue this. Every day I get literally sick to my stomach over what the government is doing and getting away with. Well, Deplorable Fred, hopefully you're doing okay, man. Sometimes it's okay to unplug from this stuff. The way I think about it, for most of us, the government really has a little... We can insulate ourselves from the effects of the government. And it's important that we do disconnect ourselves from the effects of the government. And a lot of that is in our mind. And so I am hopeful, if you're really not feeling well about it, that you do unplug for a bit. We'll still be here when you come back. But it might be, might be a good time to take a little bit of a break, a meditation on it, because what is happening is sick. But this stuff can twist you up, right? What I don't want to have happen here is for these efforts to turn into a manifestation of negativity that has no optimism or hope associated with it. What we're chronicling here is a lot of wrongdoing and a lot of evil behavior. But that doesn't mean it has to drag us down and impact us. We can live with awareness of what's going on, but with arm's length distance and separation. The awareness gives us the tools to create better lives for ourselves. And so sometimes that is a forced unplug, right? A forced unplug. And so if you're feeling that, Deplorable Fred, I'd encourage you to do that. So Danny says, no other Republicans running can fight them. They're all politicians and they're not going to fight. V says, remember, more often than you like, it's cheaper and easier to fabricate evidence than it is to find it. Yeah, it's much quicker. Just remember, censorship means never being able to say, you've wronged me. Troublemaker Jonas says, they're accelerating due to CMB. They cannot push their Copernicum and their lies anymore. TJ King says, for anyone who thinks Luft is some minor guy dragged in to play a role, guess again. He's on the stage being interviewed here about some other things. TJ King says, did Hunter advance the interest of Chinese government? Well, let's ask him. Yeah, there he is, right there as well. And so, okay, my friends, and so that is it from our friends over on Twitter. And we are going to leave it there on this beautiful day. And so thanks for everybody who sent in those amazing super chats. This one came in, says, Rob, you might want to reach out from Andreessen Berzin, says you might want to reach out to Linus Tech Tips to get merch. They have good gear and a great system for chats during the WAN show. Just an idea. That is a great idea. No, that's a great idea. And thank you for that. Yeah, actually, I should have asked you guys, do you know anybody that does it very well? I was poking around, actually. I was like looking at other locations and saying, how else do people do this? But we want good stuff. We want it to be the best store ever, man. And that's what we're going to work towards. So, all right, my friends, that is it for us on the day. And we are going to leave it there. I want to invite you to join us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we can hang out for our after party and have our conversation. And maybe I'll stand up or not. I don't know. We'll have to see. But you'll come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to have you join us at Trump, so you can get the Trump daily docket updates when we go through them. Also, we have a private Telegram group. We have our friends over at fieldofgreens.com, where you can save 15% off on your order. Load up your cart, get your greens, and get healthy, baby. Also, if you like this mind map stuff, you can create your own mind map. Go to spotlightlawyer.com and sign up for a free account over there. Want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who mod down the fort for us. Our friends Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause is in the house, playing hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nickel, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me. Also want to shout out our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum Geegum, and Nathan N810 in the house. And oh my goodness, Facts Matter. Whoa. We got 20 new members. Well, wait a minute. Where'd that go? 20 new members. Gosh, I can't scroll in here and see them all. Courtesy of Facts Matter. Oh my goodness. We've got Diane H, Samantha R, Andy G. He's dead, Jim is coming in. Forbidden Ruin, Barb Belmont, Don D, Mike M, Sassy Tech, Sup Forrest, Don W, Vanessa, Lexi's in the house. We got Woo Lad is here. We got, let me get rid of myself here. We got GSG McLovin, Akbar joined us, Tyrannus, Laura Walsh W, and Starlet S, and Philip S, all courtesy of Facts Matter. 20 in the house, man. Facts Matter. Thank you so much for that one. Absolutely amazing. So, man, tomorrow is going to be lit. Our members-only morning stream is just going to be fire. And so thank you to Facts Matter and everybody joining us. Hopefully we see you in the morning. Going to be a good show. All right, Jameson says, working on research for you. Perfect. Love it. Thanks, Jameson. Send it in an email my direction, and we'll get into it. Hey, John Allen says, Rob, as per what was said earlier, watching you is about the only way I can take all the craziness going on. Your sense of humor and spot-on wisecracks make the days bearable. Thank you. Well, John, thank you very much, man. And I appreciate all you do for our community, and you joining us means the world. So thanks for being here as we get to it. And so, all right, my friends, well, that is going to be it for us on the day. And so we'll leave it right there. I hope that you join us tomorrow when we get into it all again. It's going to be a busy day. Tomorrow, actually, I think is Christopher Wray Day. He's speaking to Congress. So we'll have some good Christopher Wray clips to attend to in the show. But until then, my friends, I hope you have yourselves a very beautiful sleep the sweetest of dreams, and that you join us right back here tomorrow so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Locals, we're starting a new chat. See you in a minute. Bye-bye, everybody.